What if Rimuru returned to the past without replacing himself, transferring to the video? Need I even? With a hand beneath his chin, the opposite works on the papers, one eyebrow up. Lengthy silvery bluish hair tied again with a black ribbon, and a little frown on his beautiful godly face that might be said as androgynous. Rimuru seems into space as he talked to his partner. Seal, who is interior him, at the same time is preserving a parallel thought as he writes on his files. Rimuru-sama, he snaps out of his reverie, forgetting he wasn't on my own eye. And his workplace and failed to think of placing up thought acceleration. He seems in the back of him and sees the wrongdoer of the voice that known as him. A deviously handsome man in butler match, Diablo. His biggest fan amongst his subordinates. Diablo seems unquestioningly at him. Not anything. I was just thinking stuff. Rimuru paused, thinking about of telling him his thoughts. Properly, virtually. I'm considering going return to the past. Diablo seems almost surprised earlier than he smiled. Know how what Rimuru desires to do. On the subject of his beloved grasp, Diablo knows him. The maximum is he has continually been on Rimuru's aspect more than absolutely everyone else. He's proud of himself to mention that he's the one Rimuru consults to together with his problems every so often. So he knows this time that Rimuru intends to move again to store the people that died, besides he would not know to what volume will his grasp go. In spite of everything, time is valuable but troublesome if messed with. Even supposing Rimuru is proof against the consequences of time and space, it still is a huge deal headache when one creates multiple timeline, erases, changes or something that could mess with time. Knowing Rimuru, who doesn't like having headaches but by hook or by crook still makes chaos, Diablo makes a decision to concentrate in addition. As such, the chaos writer persevered. Of course, I don't think it's an excellent idea to go again and change plenty of things. I'd feel terrible if I have been to trash all our stories and hard works in alternate for an easy manner to store the arena. And I don't really want to make a parallel universe and have a parallel existence and complicate stuff it truly has already been solved. He paused and persevered in a lower voice. CE however nonetheless sufficient that Diablo's great listening to can nevertheless hear. However, I additionally want to store them. Maybe even ask Shizu-san if she desires to stay. To date, I suppose. She's the handiest close character to me who died. After the baffled thoughts of Rimuru poured, Seal gave an offer. Master, what if we cross lower back in time, however now not integrate into your past self? That's the aspect, Seal. I do not need to. Rimuru stopped as his eyes widened in awareness. And as if he hadn't sufficient assist of the notion, Diablo offers his concept. Do you actually need to replace your past self, Rimuru-sama? As normal, Rimuru wonders how an awful lot of a genius his butler is for developing with the same idea as his or CL's from time to time. And eventually, he rhetorically voiced out his long thought of this. I just idea of the same thing. Seriously, how do you give you the equal concept whenever I think of such now and again? Kufufu master, you flatter me. I really. And there he is going once more along with his praises of me. I've gotten used to this that I just nodded off. Seriously, what did he see in me? I better prevent him first so I could right away do my plans. Of your majestic, tremendously extremely good amazing greatness. Diablo, first I need you to maintain our talk nowadays as a secret, okay? He stopped and located a gloved ND on his chest and bowed his head elegantly with a grin. Of path Rimuru-sama, but how could you like me to deal with this to others? Oh that, no problem, a parallel existence can resolve it. Even Huff a person may additionally be aware my trail, but my vacation spot isn't anywhere on this global, no longer even the modern day time. That means no person will be aware if I simultaneously go a parallel existence at the same time is also transferring through time and space. Though I should worry of those who can flow via time, particularly Chloe and Guy who would possibly word something. The dragon siblings too, but I doubt they may intrude aside from Veldora. However, this is additional equality. I have my getaway troubles already solved by Seal. And so, my plans can be completed. As if nothing will ever happen aside from the sneezes of the people referred to, and the little but nearly absolutely unnoticeable tug of Veldora's soul corridor. Did something take place? Veldora paused and attempted so difficult to recognition on his environment and the whole thing he may want to hold close together with his senses. Developing parallel existence and isolating self from the prevailing dimension success. Journeying via time and area to preferred destination postponed. Wait, what? Seal. Ring ring. Grasp, someone is calling. Rimuru nearly choked on his non-existent spit aft. are all at once listening to Seal funny story and said something ridiculous. What ring occurred to you? A call, via time and space. Chloe, man, Valgrind, who the heck? After sensing Rimuru's confusion, Seal spoke back the unheard question. It is Valgrind, grasp. Valgrind, what's she doing here? She simply noticed our presence as she becomes seeking out the man or woman named Rudra. With thought acceleration on, he turned it off. Nodding, he remembered there was a person else moving through time that point within the beyond. Very well, Seal, let's accept the decision. As you wish. And so, gap full of dashing searching lighting contorted and stopped. What regarded before him changed into a big and lengthy majestic Chinese language style dragon, colored in white from the front and delightful brilliant pink scales along its frame. Shining vibrant golden eyes like his looked at him with confusion. Rimuru, what are you doing right here? How did you get here? And your presence fee. LS different Valgrind spoke as she slithered around him, her body searching like that of a ribbon from a ribbon dancer's. It moved so freely at the space they were in. Both beings glowed as they floated approximately. Ah, simply on a task right here. Do not worry, not anything is incorrect. As to your other query, I come from the destiny. So please don't tell anyone about this encounter while you move back for your timeline. No longer even me from there. The red dragon widened her eyes in surprise as she gazed at this difficult being in the front of her. As a long way she could inform, no one see. And get to their preferred location and time aside from handiest one man or woman she may want to think about. And this guy in the front of her just hinted he could. Aside from that, she may want to see that he appeared to have grown up. He appeared even extra of a godly being, lovely or good-looking. Every time she sees him do something out of ordinary, her assumptions of his real identity receive stronger. This time, she determined to check him. Have to be fine within the future now if you're nevertheless smiling so casually, Oni-sama, attempting not to be obvious, she provides thoughts if you could proportion a few suitable news. Rimuru raised a forehead at what she said, almost falling for her entice. As anticipated of the destiny Rimuru who have bonded together with his own family NCE in a while after the terrific conflict, he has acknowledged the dragon siblings a bit greater. He now knows to look out for while the sisters are leading him to something. It appeared she had always been suspicious of him because they first met but he cannot inform her yet. Oni-sama, you must have mistaken me Valgrind-san. I'm still Rimuru the slime. Looking to force her thoughts away. He unconsciously provides the incorrect phrases, the one who beat you in the war. A tick mark regarded on the dragon's head and a faint gasp of indignity was heard. The dragon converted into her human shape, displaying a face of indifference but the eyes have been of task. I recognize you've beat me in warfare however in case you really want to combat again, simply inform me straight. Rimuru, paled, simply figuring out what he stated and right now shakes his hands vigorously in front of him. No, it's not what I supposed. Since you best knew me through that war, I concept you'll don't forget me via that as an alternative. Laughing nervously, he felt like there has been a chilly sweat that dripped from his returned. Valgrind fell silent as he pondered his words before guffawing a piece, her facial expressions relaxing. Relax, I realize what you suggest. Even though you should have additionally remembered that I don't know you just through that. You may have said you had been as soon as an opponent of Rudra. Or my little brother's pal. Rimuru's sweat dropped as he remembered he may want to have stated that considering the fact that became what she had known as him earlier than, over the years of peace. It appeared that he has gotten extra relaxed and a bit forgetful of a few things. He instructed himself to no longer be indulged too much inside the years of peace to the factor of forgetting matters. At the least he got her off from speaking about her suspicions. Now was just now not yet the time for that speak whilst the Rimuru from her timeline does not understand about it but. Earlier than he could say something else, Valgrind speaks in a hopeful tone. In case you are from the destiny, can you tell me when you have seen the entire of Rudra? Rimuru gazed at her with heat eyes and his kind smile. I shouldn't be telling you something from the destiny now, have to I? It changed into short and simple. Not an answer that Valgrind was hoping for however it failed to rely to her, due to how he added it. She knew there has been desire. He failed to say it as if he by no means noticed the guy she became looking for in his timeline, as a substitute had become a hint. That there's a completely high opportunity that she will find him. What is likewise critical is his soul and heart, it doesn't rely if his persona changes. She sighed in comfort. Rimuru doesn't realize what Velgrind is questioning proper now, but if it is what he suppose it's Miles, he should say he is a evidence of an example to what Masayuki is nearly like. It's been 6 years for the reason that notable Tenma battle. It has been 6 years considering he was sent to the quid of time and space. It has also been 6 years considering the fact that he regained his recollections. As Veldanava, it has also been 6 years since he discovered that Seal changed into Lucia, Veldanava's wife. Hinata's recognition changed into one together with her skilled mathematician. Rudra's coronary heart became with Covenant King, Uriel. His soul himself is likewise one with his manas. However, his case with Seal turned into so distinct than the others, it'd be hard to provide an explanation for, even though he has gained this knowledge. None of his subordinates and friends know about them but, just that he has told best his own family of actual dragons and Milam. He places his recognition at the soul integrated to him from within. And found Ciel simply leisurely hugging his soul. The entire time seeing that exquisite sage, he observed out that it has usually been unconsciously hugging him. And now, that it has completely incorporated into him, it was very lots looking like each souls are blanketing every other. It felt so extremely good and first-rate, sweeter than the sweetest paintings of the pleasant chefs in the whole universe. It continually fills him with warm temperature and calms him down whilst he is feeling down. Feeling something like eyes on her, Seal shyly pushes Rimuru's cone. Easons lower back from their souls to his sister, Velgrind. Rimuru raises his brows in confusion as she blushed. Seal, are you blushing? It is just your imagination. Rimuru became certain she approached. Something else on every occasion she says that phrase of her, but he doesn't follow through and just chuckled. So then, don't lose hope, Velgrindson. You can do it. Simply have staying power and take your time. Rimuru suggests her amazing smile whilst overlaying his close mistake of calling Velgrind without an honorific, hoping she did not observe it. It become constantly puzzling to him if aught. To he name them huge sisters or more youthful sisters, so he calls them by way of name by myself. Velgrind's eyes had been dazed for a moment before focusing back on what he stated. She didn't seem to catch his mistake and nodded as she smiled. Ah, thank you. I will. Then, excuse me at the same time as I hold my task. Consider not inform anybody approximately this meet, K. Velgrind nods and agrees with him. She too have a assignment. She still doesn't understand how lengthy she would entire the puzzle of Rudra, and she nearly cannot anticipate the time she in the end brings him again whole. Both authentic dragons glowed vibrant before the distance warped and that they vanished together. To each different surprise, they clearly did warp out together and arrived within the same vicinity and the same time. What? Why are you continue to write here, Velgrind? I may want to have requested you the equal thing. They each regarded around and determined themselves surrounded via a farm. At a nearby distance, there have been houses. There has been a mini pond a bit similarly from the residence, and past the farm have been mountains. It was daylight hours, however no person noticed them at the middle of the field. Velgrind became observing at one particular house, feeling the call of a soul fragment. She desired to rush there, however she additionally felt like going together with Rimuru. She glanced at him whilst she heard him talk. I determined to return similarly in time. I wasn't really speeding, so I wanted to look the world before my reincarnation. What approximately you? One of the fragments I was looking for seems to be right here. Why do not we stay collectively in this adventure for the period in between? Why not? I've nothing planned proper now aside from exploring anyway. Rimuru shrugged and agreed. Each walked towards the residence. He takes this time to invite Seal of where in there. We're presently within the 2D levels of the town called Ingraxia. Oh okay, I wager it's far excellent then. Being in 2D tiers means that it's not that a lot of a newly born town, but it's flourishing already. By means of the manor, do you take into account if I've a passed me here, Seal? No, their time here has already passed, and you've gone to rest inside the void to put together to your reincarnation as a human. Okay. And how is even a fraction of Rudra right here? Whilst Rudra remains complete and alive at the moment length, the fragment in the residence you are heading to is too small that it could slip via as nearly non-existent. He glanced on Velgrind for a bit, thinking if he have to ask her approximately this, but decided no longer to, considering that nothing regarded to go incorrect after she got here lower back in his timeline. Velgrind-san, do you already know what happened for your beyond self while you got here right here? I have multiple parallel existence, remember? People which can be proof against double souls in a single timeline. And don't worry about my beyond self sensing my presence, I'm a good deal greater effective than my beyond me now that I can conceal myself from a weaker me. He smiled, questioning how an awful lot his sister has grown. The maximum outstanding issue about her right now could be her endurance. She certain become awesome, being able to anticipate a totally long-term just for her beloved. Of direction, as befitting of his sister. Each one of the authentic dragons in reality have awesome developments to each in their own. Rimuru changed his look with the same appearance from when he traveled with Julius, Magnus and the crowd. Valgrind, alternatively, did not trouble changing her appearance. In view that she become present at this period, there was no problem if people sees her. She-chan, Jeed into no longer one to always show herself in public, so no person would even understand. Even if they did discover her identity, they could just live far away from her. If Rimuru were to be discovered out and recorded in history, humans in the destiny could be conscious and make assumptions of his life with the past. Upload that his seams aren't certainly one to blend in with the gang. He turned into simply that divinely stunning. Reaching the bustling metropolis, Rimuru may want to already see the signs and symptoms of this vicinity going large inside the destiny, now not as a ways as Tempest in his time. However sufficient that it is able to be nearly considered as a city. The homes and shops didn't have second floors yet, however they have been still huge sufficient to be referred to as decent. The region become energetic and noisy like a regular town that become about to emerge as a capital. Unlike his first go-to with the U.S.A., there had been more stalls outside, selling. End result in their very own special products. Youngsters have been gambling around whilst adults paintings or do something they were doing. Anybody appear a touch more glad and greater people had been outdoor. Tempest was the identical yet higher. The most effective difference became the presence of a castle. It turned into a root, large and majestic, but he didn't experience jealous or anything, in spite of being a king himself. He refused to have a castle built as his residence. Rimuru usually wanted to stay with his little secure home because of it being an incredible region to loosen up, be calm, and no longer sense the strain of ordinary existence. It changed into the only area where he ought to lay down, almost unbothered with the aid of everybody or whatever, apart from his tree by way of the hill. Rimuru became just following Valgrind round, who regarded to be following an antique man from a distance. The person appeared a bit frail or susceptible, however no longer sufficient to prevent him from taking walks round. It have to be him. As they had been following the old guy, he hears a few human beings talking round. A few were apprehensive, a few were scared, some had been burdened. Did you hear? The demon lords are collecting on the Lord of Darkness, Citadel. You are kidding. It's now not real, right? Do you observe they may be planning at the downfall of human beings? Does the king know of this? A bit involved, Rimuru approached the institution and determined to invite round. Valgrind observed his motion and determined to stop following the antique man, knowing she will be able to locate him along with her overpowered senses. Excuse me, does everybody realize the reason for the Walpurgis? Walpurgis, a man requested. Confusion changed into written on every in their faces before they morphed to cognizance. It turned into at this second that Rimuru realized the demon lords' meeting did now not have a name yet. Valgrind simply sighed helplessly, however a bit amused. It was after Rimuru nervously left with his unanswered query, that rumors went around approximately how the Demon Lord's assembly should be known as Walpurgis. Distinctive theories were advis. Ed on what it supposed, and the maximum prominent one turned into that Walpurgis intently sounded like purge, but that became simply one of these theories they made. Guy Red's Pav. He sat with the aid of the balcony of the Ice Citadel with Velzard by way of his side. Both of them ingesting tea with Milam and Romuris after a few years of Milam's rampage and rise to being a real demon lord. They had been previously talking about the next demon lord, having a guessing game on who might certainly come first, Dagruel or Rumina's Valentine. Up to now, they've captured the interest most of the three. Guy G. Azed up into the sky as he sensed something ominous. The ladies checked out him curiously, one among them voiced out the query striking within the air. You okay, man? Romuris asked, no longer surely involved but curious. Man narrowed his eyes as he voiced his worries. I have a awful feeling that a person will supply this meeting in our group with a completely lame call. They looked directly to him with a deadpan expression. Velzard sighed and gave her opinion nonchalantly. Perhaps the meeting call might be accurate enough that you may say it's epic. Some years later, the rumors have unfolded. D became the motive that officialized and mentioned the call in their meeting Walpurgis, of the fill in wide variety wonderful demon lords. When someone is speaking, while a person is questioning or speak me telepathically. When Seal is speak me from inside rimuru. Whilst a person is whispering or just coughing. I'm such an idiot. I failed to even recognize when the Walpurgis changed into named. To suppose it would come to this. Rimuru became a touch apprehensive for being the only that, named, Walpurgis. I concept I've ended this streak. It appears my naming tendency will by no means trade. Humans may simply start calling me the Lord of Naming, and I by accident stole the authentic namer's highlight. I had no plans in changing something, that is why this isn't a parallel life. At the Leah's, the credit score went to the Western Holy Church. That group you approached in advance turned into apparently part of the now famous church. Subsequently, you definitely did not ruin history. Valkyrie. ND just chuckled silently as she heard what Rimuru muttered. Each of them were now out of doors, the house of the old guy. They stood via a small alley with a door at the end, and a pile of trash near the doorway of the alley. They might already tell that the vintage man was negative. They determined to attend a bit and think about a way on how to approach the old man, attempting not to be the motive of his dying. Valgrind may want his fragment of a soul, however she nevertheless desires to take care of it, even when the man or woman is a distinctive one. Rimuru stopped murmuring when he heard a rustle at the back of him. There, at the doorway of the alleyway the both of them have been in, became a younger man with wide surprised and wary eyes. They stared at each different awkwardly for a minute earlier, then the fellow slowly inched closer to a door beside Rimuru, without taking their eyes off each different, no longer even noticing the female in the back of Rimuru who changed into observing a door. Step, step, step. Stair, step, step, step. The guy stopped with the aid of a nearby door and slowly raised a hand to the knob and turned it. Don't surrender in lifestyles, pal. Tranger said, and right away he moved quickly inside his residence, leaving Rimuru along with his eyes ticking in annoyance. He totally forgot he turned into speaking out loud despite the fact that Grind became just a little further in the front of him. And now someone just noticed him talking to himself interior an alleyway, wherein he ran to after finding out that he named Walpurgis. Rimuru sighed, not questioning too much of it. He faced Valgrind's back after pasting a sack of flour above the door of that man, to be prompted to tip down as soon as the door is opened. Due to the fact, while have I been this a great deal of a prankster earlier than? You're one of the labyrinth managers, grasp. Oh yeah, that, and once more, I advised you to prevent calling me master, else just inform me it is your kink. Rimuru blushed when Seal giggled in affirmation. He shakes his head earlier than Valgrind-san notices his redness. Valgrind knocks at the door and now not long after, the antique man from in advance opened it. They both stared at each other in surprise and Rimuru concept that maybe he ought to leave them both to their time. Except, this is not truly the time to have long adventures yet. In an effort to need to wait sooner or later. Valgrind-san, I suppose I need to pass beforehand. I think I still have many things to do. So, good luck in your adventure. Valgrind turned to Hi M and blinked before she smiled gratefully, information his intentions. Of path. Thanks for escorting me for a touch at the same time as. Have a terrific journey in your adventures too, Rimuru. They smiled at every different one extra time before turning round on their very own new one-of-a-kind paths. Valgrind became to the man and smiled. Hiya. Once Rimuru was outside from anybody, he jumped out from an alley after concealing himself. He started out to fly off in the direction of a path where he thinks there's something amusing going on and smirked. The modern demon lords of this period the so known as 3 historic demon lords. There are also hundreds of others that attempt to join membership. Maybe I should go and play with them for a piece. Seal, how a whole lot should I exchange? NGE the occasions if I determine to visit them. Answer to that 100% if you make yourself regarded at the same time as 0% in case you nonetheless pick to be inside the shadows as you confront them. Makes experience. Wait, does that imply those preceding demon lords are truly much like vain mob characters without a screen time as though handiest mentioned as soon as? Hi, sure. Rimuru's pressure. Ed expression changed lower back to a mischievous smile and asked. What number of extras are we going to face, Seal? Presently 89 feet demon lords 8,560,100. Make up your mind, it is now not me master. In some way, he can sense Seal pouting. Rimuru blinked, and used universal perception himself this time. He became able to cover all of the way to the Dagruel and luminous location. It was actual indeed. He determined approximately the fluctuating powerful energies going rampant as a conflict was being held on the fantastic Jura woodland. It wasn't that Rimuru doubted Seal, he changed into simply stray. SSED on the implausible changing quantity of Demon Lord's gift. For the reason that best three were famously known as reputable during the Magic Continent, these idiots should be combating for an respectable position. That or they definitely are a rowdy bunch, combating for a couple of reasons. Highly, he also sensed Dagruel having a duel with Veldora some other place too. It is likely not their first time right now on the grounds that even Dagruel can be visible smiling every so often. Any other became man beginning some other duel with Rudra, and Velzard appeared to be watching whilst nonchalantly sipping tea at the facet. With Romulus once in a while tickling Milam for a laugh, while Milam creepily grinning and looking to sneak a few fly swatter at the back of Romulus. What technology did I get myself into? Turned into this always their hobby that point. Rimuru shakes his head as though to try to overlook what he discovered. Having made up his thoughts, he teleported himself atop the continuing battlefield of the fantastic Jura wooded area, easily dodging a magic bullet alongside the manor. He turned into currently invisible to everybody right now so no person can feel him. There are distinct types of demon lords occupied under him. There were the ones preventing, a few falling like flies, some disintegrated, a few thrown a ways away, and there were the spectator demon lords who every now and then get stuck up within the carnage. A person changed into thrown up beside him and he looked on because the character suddenly yelled, "I'm Demon Lord YN, and you all little dirt shall bow before my greatness. Along with you fellow readers and writer San." At least that is what they stated before he dived down to headbutt a random man or woman from below. Their ability turned int, simply too effective that they appeared capable of see-through US cough cough. Rimuru raised his eyebrows in entertainment, wanting to watch this stranger do more headbutts and whatnot with others. He failed to understand what they whispered though so neglected it. In a while he found him wearing a big ant's head as a helmet that he were given from defeating a demon lord who rides and commands massive ants. I cannot let him get all of the amusing now, am I able to? Rimuru chuckled as he decided to take part however with a twist. He lifted up a bouncy barrier all around those idiots, and watched on. As all of them bounced round like tender balls. He chuckled a bit in concept it wasn't that humorous enough yet, so he attempts to think about other methods. While he changed into questioning, something stuck his eye. A humanoid unicorn yelling the outstanding YN even as spinning around the barrier, hitting their objectives even as doing cartwheels in the air, popping the sufferers into rainbow-colored ash clouds. I need to pinnacle that off. Grasp, I would really like to attempt something new. Oh, Sasuga Seal, what is it? Seal instructed her master what to do and Rimuru hesitated. He placked a hand on his chin and commenced to suppose. We haven't clearly commenced touring different worlds but, however I do plan to undergo all of them at some point. Except, I do wonder what it would appear like on me. You may have a one-of-a-kind appearance but the artillery could be the identical. You simply ought to do it like this. At the battlefield, there best about 50 left them, and still counting. Rimuru organized himself and determined to reveal himself as soon as he mentions the magic words. Ready, device God. All guns poured out. To the eyes of many around that vicinity, he unexpectedly seemed and carrying extraordinary props, almost covering his entire frame. A lot of them had been at once terrified and harassed at such bizarre machineries. The handiest difference in this change are the colors. That being black and neon sky blue. Next, let's mix it up with a Karuga's arms from the lower back. It was exactly what passed off. As a substitute of having 4 back palms, their Avenue bin 6 and each held some swords with crystal-like orbs stick to them. Maple and Ernesti Ekevalier's artillery absolutely looks double menacing and funky while mixed. Why don't we upload a piece more? Seal changed into making some boastful noises as she and Rimuru added another sponsor. Urza from Fairy Tale. Only some vibrant swords all at once levitated round him, forming a hoop. Rimuru chuckled excitedly, looking to strive out his new toys. Need I add extra for this crossover? Nah. Now then, permits move. Generally, one might suppose Rimuru could pass killing these pebbles, however he did not. Despite growing some experience of amusing whilst combating, he's nonetheless a pacifier. Screams were sounding, swords have been flying left and proper, up and down but they best XP. RTLY weaved through these human beings and disarming them from their weapons. The lasers have been in complete activation, but they handiest chipped on their armors. The bullets had been fired however they felt like jelly. However they burn up their magic and nullified their skills as much as 50%. Such correct calculation and big manage can only be performed whilst you such terrific potential. My lady friend is so outstanding. You could reward me greater, master. Rimuru should listen his manas make a few boastful noises whilst additionally feeling like she turned into blushing a bit. Once Rimuru changed into glad that he has hit all of them, he stopped and returned to being invisible and referred to as of the transformation and lower back to his unique appearance in his genuine dragon form in human shape. Those who had been left or combating amongst themselves, nonetheless pressured and simply hitting everyone they tried to eradicate. Relatively, that YN additionally stayed alive. Sadly for them, after they reached around 10 humans left, a large jaw suddenly chomped 6 of them. Flying overhead while giggling, the contemporary king of the notable Jura wooded area has arrived. Kuahahaha. A few punies came to entertain me after my everyday education. Awesome for you all to see the majestic me on your presences. Rimuru, with a deadpan expression on his face, gazed at the majestic dragon known as Veldora. He does internally admit that his brother is majestic, but it in no way gets antique that Veldora ruins it whilst he starts speaking. Ah, there he goes once more, I am sure. Becoming an otaku simply doubled his charisma. Rimuru sighed and smiled as he remembers his brother from his timeline. But he's no longer all horrific, neither is he gonna live remarkable reckless and careless. Veldora has grown in spite of being nonetheless worrying and nevertheless quite conceited, however he means properly, he is simply bored most of the time. Inside the historical past, Veldora become playing with the demon lords left, and by some means within the method, by chance through YN to Imogen doing something fishy, turning both of them into a random dryad and treant for bumping into him and breaking his spell. The first actual and final look of such spell are no longer. It really is the first I see of that technique. Seal record that please. We might be able to replicate that at some point if wanted. Diablo's technique become very plenty distinct. Kufufu already performed grasp. Then let's go away Veldora to his buddies and let's cross go to man. I by some means all at once notion of horror films just now. He became away and slowly fly over to the frozen continent. That may not work on a demon like him, Rimuru. Oh, do not worry, I just have a better concept to make it effective, additionally. Seal, you called me by call. Teehee. Rimuru's smile widens as he heard her calling his call, and a slight blush regarded on his cheeks. The same issue occurred with Seal and he can experience her pouting. Determining to go there quicker, he teleported at one and all guys' halls undetected. There has been no one there and he ought to feel all of them by using the throne room. Man turned into on foot round and began strolling to his course, his bedroom. Despite the fact that demons don't want sleep, it seems he nonetheless have a bedroom. However, for now, it's time to give our friend a bit of an enjoyment. Guy's pav. Guy casually entered his room, buzzing a tune while he noticed something from his balcony. A man stood there. His lower back was became to him, so his face cannot be visible. His blue hair seemed fluffy, now not lengthy, now not quick, simply enough duration as long as one's hands. He had shoulder duration side hair earlier than his ears. There was a gold ring around his head which seemed to be his crown. He wore a white gown with blue and gold information via the rims from how man sees from his again. He had the identical height as him. Guy's EY's slowly widened in surprise and he couldn't form phrases. The fellow abruptly started to stroll out of view from the doorways and man sprinted to get to him, however when he reached the balcony the guy wasn't there. Guy can't feel him anywhere in his continent. He sighed and chuckled a piece, feeling specific sorts of emotions, all of the surprising. He became around and gazed on the balcony in aspect view. I do not know wherein you're proper now, however I believe you could come back for your personal, anywhere, whenever. When someone is talking, while a person is wondering or talking telepathically. While Seal is speaking from inside Rimuru. Whilst a person is whispering or simply coughing. Blank, blank. I am such an idiot. I failed to even recognize whilst the Walpurgis turned into named. To think it might come to this, Rimuru become a touch anxious for being the only that, named, Walpurgis. I have ended this streak. It seems my naming tendency will by no means exchange. Humans might simply start calling me the Lord of Naming, and I accidentally stole the unique namer's spotlight. I had no plans in converting something, that is why this isn't a parallel lifestyles. At least the credit score went to the Western Holy Church. That group you approached in advance became reputedly part of the now well-known church. As a result, you in reality didn't smash records. Velgrin simply chuckled silently as she heard what Rimuru muttered. The both of them have been now outside the house of the vintage guy. They stood through a small alley with a door at the quit And a pile of trash close to the doorway of the alley. They may already tell that the old guy changed into negative. They decided to attend a chunk and think about a way on the way to approach the antique guy. Attempting no longer to be the reason of his dying. Velgrind may also need his fragment of a soul, but she nevertheless desires to take care of it, even when the man or woman is a unique one. Rimuru stopped murmuring while he heard a rustle behind him. There, at the entrance of the alleyway each of them had been in, was a young man with wide surprised and cautious eyes. Hay stared at every other awkwardly for a minute earlier. Then the fellow slowly inched in the direction of a door beside Rimuru, without taking their eyes off every different, no longer even noticing the girl in the back of Rimuru, who turned into staring at a door. Step, 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 stair, step, step, step. The guy stopped by a nearby door and slowly raised a hand to the knob and became it. Don't give up in life, buddy. The stranger stated, and at once he moved quickly internal his house, leaving Rimuru with his eyes ticking in annoyance. He completely forgot he became speaking out loud despite the fact that Velgrind was only a little in addition in front of him. And now someone just saw him speak me to himself inside an alleyway, where he ran to after finding out that he named Walpurgis. Rimuru sighed, not wondering too much of it. He faced Velgrind's back after pasting a sack of flour above the door of that man, to be precipitated to tip down once the door is opened. Considering when I been this a lot of a prankster before. You are one of the labyrinth managers, master. Oh yeah, that, and yet again, I informed you to stop calling me Grasp, else just inform me it's your kink. Muru blushed while Seal giggled in confirmation. He shakes his head before Velgrind-san notices his redness. Velgrind knocks at the door and no longer lengthy after, the old guy from earlier opened it. They each stared at each other in marvel, and Rimuru idea that perhaps he ought to leave them both to their time. Besides, this is not really the time to have lengthy adventures, but to be able to need to wait sooner or later. Velgrind-san, I suppose I should go beforehand. I assume I still have many stuff to do. So, good luck on your adventure. Velgrind grew to become to him and blinked earlier than she smiled gratefully. Understanding his intentions of direction. Thanks for escorting me for a bit, even as. Have a superb journey to your adventures too, Rimuru. They smiled at every other extra time earlier than turning around on their own new distinct paths. Velgrind became to the man and smiled. Hiya. Once Rimuru was out sight from anyone, he jumped out from an alley after concealing himself. He started to fly off closer to a route in which he thinks there may be something amusing occurring, and smirked. The current demon lords of this period are the so referred to as 3 ancient demon lords. There are also loads of others that try to be part of club. Perhaps I ought to move and play with them for a piece. Seal, how a good deal could I trade the occasions if I decide to visit them? Solution to that: 100% if you make yourself regarded, whilst 0% in case you nevertheless select to be in the shadows as you confront them. Makes experience. Wait, does that imply those preview? Demon lords are without a doubt just like useless mob characters without a display time, as though best mentioned as soon as. Hi, sure. Rimuru's stressed expression modified returned to a mischievous smile and requested. How many extras are we going to stand, Seal? Presently 89 feet. Demon lords 8,560,100. Make up your mind. It is now not me, Grasp. By hook or by crook, he can experience, Seal pouting. Rimuru blinked, and used universal perception himself this time. He changed into able to cover all the way to the Dagruel and luminous location. It become true indeed, he located about the fluctuating powerful energies going rampant as a warfare changed into being held on the wonderful Jura wooded area. It wasn't that Rimuru doubted Seal, he became just stressed on the unbelievable converting amount of demon lords present. Considering the fact that only 3 had been famously referred to as authentic throughout the magic continent, those idiots have to be combating for an respectable position. That or they genuinely are a rowdy bunch. Combating for multiple reasons. Tremendously, he additionally sensed Dagruel having a duel with Veldora someplace else too. It's likely no longer their first time. Proper now, considering that even Dagruel will be seen smiling every so often. Another become man beginning any other duel with Rudra, and Velzard regarded to be looking at the same time as nonchalantly sipping tea on the facet. With Romulus every so often tickling Milam for amusing, whilst Milam creepily grinning and looking to sneak some fly swatter in the back of Romulus. What era did I am getting myself into? Changed into this always their interest that time. Rimuru shakes his head as if to try to overlook what he found. Having made up his mind, he teleported himself atop the ongoing battlefield of the top-notch Jura woodland. easily dodging a magic bullet alongside the manor. He was currently invisible to all and sundry proper now, so no person can sense him. They're the exclusive forms of demon lords, occupied below him. There have been the ones preventing, some falling like flies, a few disintegrated, some thrown a ways away, and there had been the spectator demon lords whoever. Why now and then get caught up inside the carnage? A person was thrown up beside him and he appeared on because the person suddenly yelled, "I'm Demon Lord YN, and also you all little dust shall bow before my greatness." Such as you fellow readers and writer San. As a minimum that's what they said before he dived all the way down to headbutt a random man or woman from under. Their capability was too powerful that they appeared capable of see-through US cough cough. Rimuru raised his eyebrows in entertainment, looking to watch this stranger do extra headbutts and whatnot with others. He didn't comprehend what they whispered though, so ignored it. Afterward he discovered him carrying a large ant's head as a helmet that he got from defeating a demon lord who rides and instructions giant ants. I cannot permit him get all the amusing now. Can I? Rimuru chuckled as he decided to participate, however with a twist. He lifted up a bouncy barrier all round these idiots, and watched on as they all bounced around like smooth balls. He chuckled a piece and notion it wasn't that funny enough, but, so he attempts to consider different methods. While he become wondering, something stuck his eye, a humanoid. Unicorn yelling the high quality YN even is spinning across the barrier, hitting their goals at the same time as doing cartwheels inside the air, popping the sufferers into rainbow-colored ash clouds. I must pinnacle that off. Grasp. I would love to strive something new. Oh, Sasuga Seal. What is it? Seal advised her grasp what to do and Rimuru hesitated. He positioned a hand on his chin and commenced to assume. We haven't really started traveling different worlds, but, however, I do plan to undergo they all at some point. Besides, I do wonder what it would look like on me. You'll a different look, however the artillery could be the same. You simply have to do it like this. At the battlefield, there best about 50 left them, and nonetheless counting. Rimuru prepared himself and decided to reveal himself once he mentions the magic phrases. Ready. Device God. All weapons poured out. To the eyes of many around that region, he all at once seemed in carrying ordinary props, almost protecting his entire body. Lots of them had been straightaway terrified and pressured at such abnormal machineries. The best difference in this transformation are the colors, that being black and neon sky blue. Next, permits blended up with Ikaruga's arms from the returned. It turned into precisely what came about. Rather of getting 4 backhands, there have been 6 and every held some SWO. RDS with crystal-like orbs stick to them. Maple and Ernesti Ekevalier's artillery really looks double menacing and funky while combined. Why do not we upload a chunk greater? Seal was making some SMUG noises as she and Rimuru delivered some other sponsor. Urza from Fairy Tail. Just a few vivid swords suddenly levitated round him, forming a ring. Rimuru chuckled excitedly, wanting to strive out his new toys. Should I upload more for this crossover? Nah. Now then, let's cross. Generally, one would assume Rimuru might pass killing those pebbles, but he failed to, notwithstanding developing AF. EU experience of amusing whilst fighting, he's nevertheless a pacifier. Screams were sounding. Swords were flying left and proper, up and down, however they most effective expertly weaved through these people and disarming them from their guns. The lasers had been in complete activation, but they most effective chipped on their armors. The bullets had been fired but they felt like jelly, however they deplete their magic and nullified their competencies as much as 50%. Such accurate calculation and big manage can only be performed when you such incredible potential. My female friend is so brilliant. You may reward me greater, grasp. Rimuru ought to listen his manas make a few arrogant noises at the same time as additionally feeling like she became blushing apiece. Once Rimuru turned into happy that he has hit them all. He stopped and returned to being invisible and called of the transformation and again to his original look in his genuine dragon shape and human shape. Those who were left are fighting among themselves. Still pressured and simply hitting each person they are trying to get rid of. Quite, that YN additionally stayed alive. Sadly for them, once they reached around 10 people left. A massive jaw chomped 6 of them. Flying overhead while guffawing, the current king of the tremendous Jura woodland has arrived. Kuahahaha. A few punies got here to entertain me after my day-by-day schooling. Exceptional for you all to look the majestic me in your presences. Rimuru, with a deadpan expression on his face, gazed at the majestic dragon called Veldora. He does internally admit that his brother is majestic, however it in no way gets old that Veldora ruins it when he starts off evolved speak me. Ah, there he is going again. I'm positive turning into an otaku just doubled his charisma. Rimuru sighed and smiled as he recalls his brother from his timeline. However, he's now not all terrible, nor is he gonna live superb, reckless and careless. Veldora has grown despite being still annoying and still pretty boastful. However, he manner well. He's just bored maximum of the time. In the background, Veldora become gambling with the demon lords left. And some way within the technique. By accident through YN to Imogen doing something fishy, turning each of them right into a random dryad and treant for bumping into him and breaking his spell. The first actual and ultimate look of such spell are no longer. It is the primary IC of that technique. Seal report that please. We might be capable of replicate that someday if needed. Diablo's manner turned into very a good deal one of a kind. Kufufu already carried out grasp, then allows go away Veldora to his pals and let's move visit man. I by hook or by crook abruptly thought of horror movies just now. He turned away and slowly fly over to the frozen continent. That may not paintings on a demon like him, Rimuru. Oh, don't worry, I just have a higher concept to make it powerful. Additionally, Seal, you called me through name. Teehee. Rimuru's smile widens as he heard her calling his call, and a moderate blush appeared on his cheeks. The identical issue passed off with Seal and he can sense her pouting. Identifying to go there quicker. He teleported at certainly one of man's halls undetected. There has been nobody there and he ought to experience them all by using the throne room. Guy changed into walking around. And started out on foot to his direction, his bedroom. Despite the fact that demons do not need sleep, it appears he still have a bedroom. But for now, it is time to provide our friend a piece of an entertainment. Guy's pav. Guy casually entered his room, humming a music when he observed something from his balcony. A man stood there. His return grew to become to him, so his face cannot be seen. His blue hair regarded fluffy. No longer long, not brief, simply enough period as long as one's palms. He had shoulder-length side hair before his ears. There was a gold ring round his head which appeared to be his crown. He wore a white gown with blue and gold info by means of the rims from how man sees from his back. He had the equal height as him. Man's eyes slowly widened in wonder and he couldn't form phrases. The fellow abruptly commenced to stroll out of view from the doorways and Guy sprinted to get to him, but whilst he reached the balcony, the fellow wasn't there. Guy cannot feel him anywhere in his continent. He sighed and chuckled a chunk, feeling extraordinary forms of feelings, all of the surprising. He grew to become around and gazed on the balcony in aspect view. I don't know wherein you are proper now. However, I trust you could come lower back for your very own, everywhere, every time. Why is everything so darkish? I sense like my eyes are open, however I can't see something. Seal, could you set off my magic sense? Seal. Solution. Great Sage is currently in operation. Rimuru wakes up to a darkish surrounding. The floor is hard and looks like there are some flora. He tried asking for Seal, however instead were given a reaction of a nostalgic mechanical voice from Ciel's predecessor, Awesome Sage. Rimuru attempts to touch something after feeling his palm's presence. Of root he has a human frame. He seems just similar to whilst he changed into Mikami Satoru. But what excited him greater changed into, he were given hus, son, backer nonetheless. Next he felt the floor. And the grass that felt very familiar in form. Hippocute, wherein precisely am I? He used the ones to try and make something to cover himself up. It turned into tough being that he could not see. But he controlled to cover his decrease element. Solution. You were just recently reborn after you died on this planet, gaining new talents and resistances. Might you like to hear them? Sure, no. That can't be. Did I restart or something? W properly, yes, allows hear it, see Amazing Sage. Answer. You have the unique competencies. Great Sage and Predator you. Furthermore, MGHT have just all resistances and stuff he were given after reincarnation, and their rationalization too. The ones are the same things I've had before, however why do I sense different? Should it be Great Sage? What's my race? Solution. Race. Human. I don't know what to experience approximately that. I do like being human every now and then, but I nonetheless want my slime self. It is just because I were given used to it. Are located it extraordinarily relaxed, are found it convenient in plenty of things, and feel extra freedom from it, doesn't suggest it's all the reason I nonetheless need to be a slime. A normal human might not remember that. Rimuru shakes his head, trying to pass on. Well, whatever. I've been a human for a long time and loads of times while I was a slime, so what could move wrong? I was extremely buffshay. Rimuru stumbled one more time and face planted on a bed of hippocoot. It wasn't lengthy in the past that he located himself bare, however persisted to task out around the cave. He attempted to eat the grass like he ate earlier then, but it did not paintings. Other than it tastes too grassy, he also felt like he became a goat. It just feels so special. It changed into weird consuming raw grass with a mouth that his stomach rumbled in protest. His predator seemed almost useless with this frame if it were not for his mouth. After he took approximately 2 bites, he stopped ingesting. He has his eyes open but the cave become too dark. He tried to regain his magic sense but it changed into tougher than he notion. His slime self became able to do it due to the fact all his body parts are composed of multicells that would act as each organ compared to a human frame, while his modern-day human frame has to awareness and hit upon Magicille's 100-fold greater effort. And every time he stumbled, he has to shut his eyes simply due to the fact they had been sensitive and will without difficulty trap dirt and other particles, in spite of pain resistance. He still can't help the peculiar feeling of something in the eyes. Aside from that, he was breathing much less air due to how deep he became in the cave. He tripped on any other stone, rolled downhill and fell in what felt like liquid with a touch. He felt his breathing got much less and he tried to relax whilst he realized. The lake, that is horrific, definitely, right now that is terrible. He commenced trying to swim up in which there regarded less gravity and a long way from a colder depths. As soon as he reached the top, he breathed in for extra air and started swimming to where land might be. He determined that enough is enough. He sat nevertheless on the ground and tried tough to pay attention greater on sensing the Magicilles. After an extended while, he or later managed to see a chunk of his surroundings, the away's parts being blurry however doable. He decided to be contented with it for now and commenced the direction to Veldora. If he would not need to die from starvation, he has to move rapid. His slime self may want to stay off with Magicilles as his meals just like the other ordinary slimes, but human beings need actual human food to live. He concept all over again. That a slime's body is surely some distance convenient. He has to rush to discover a way returned. He has been thus far in his journey as a slime and he does not need that long gone or replaced. He was certain that being in this country is only a terrible concept. After a while of walking, he subsequently heard Veldora calling for him, sensing that Thray was a human around. Good day you, who was there? Are you right here to are searching for the safety, and notice the respect of the only and most effective hurricane dragon, Veldora? Rimuru's sweat dropped and saint. Ood in front of a transparent oil-like barrier with a dragon internal, searching all boastful. Oi antique guy, I just came here to make buddies with you. In case you do not want that then nice, I'll leave. Pretending to walk away, Veldora right away panicked and crossed his fingers trying to look majestic. And no, of path I'd accept your friendship, human. Rimuru secretly smirked and walked back towards Veldora who in flip checked out him curiously. However, why would a human capable of come close to me without collapsing? Oh, I would not let you know that I am straining my hardest just to get to you. Nicely. I ought to do my first class if I need to befriend a strong dragon. I'm very lots worthy now, nay. Kuahaha, right, then we may be pals. Veldora then commenced speak me about how he were. Given in this case which Rimuru turned into now not surprised, but rather he puzzled the way to get him in his stomach. A human frame simply isn't flexible like a slime. He attempted asking extraordinary sage, however she also cannot find a solution. He sighed in unhappiness. Then I bet I will ought to depart you here. As lots as I need to help you out, I can't. I'll come visit you once in a while. I might just be capable of carry friends too. Of path, please do. But first, you by no means told me your call. Ah, I without a doubt haven't any. A human without a name. That is surprising. Then I shall name you. Of course it might have been helpful in case you were a monster, however no trouble. Naming human beings is absolutely ordinary for you, right? They paused. Rimuru realized that he have a difficult time once more even upon getting a call. He shakes his head out of his thoughts and decided to wing it. Yes, then I shall additionally come up with a closing call if you need. Kuahaha, I, Storm Dragon, Veldora accept. Any more you'll be, Rimuru. As though not feeling the sparks of having obtained a name like he did earlier then, Rimuru's face momentarily dropped, but he right now put back a slime. You then shall have the call, Tempest. Kuahaha, I am Veldora Tempest, and you will be Rimuru Tempest. Feeling nostalgic, Rimuru gazed at Veldora with heat brotherly eyes, and Veldora with friendly eyes. Veldora. Rimuru. Then, I shall pass, Veldora. I will come lower back with buddies if I survive popping out. Kuahaha. Without a doubt you jest. You were capable of input my cave. How tough should it's on the way to come out? Now that I consider it, why is he simplest sporting hippocute herbs on his waist? Feeling all frightened, Rimuru kept to himself that he became reborn within the cave in the first place. He began to stroll away and face the river once more with a new plan. He sat beside it and started out splashing water, looking to form it in crescent form, unnecessary to mention. Looking to remake his water blade became more than one instances harder whilst you cannot modify its output. He attempted to apply his mouth this time and spritz it out. After knowing the sensation ultimate time, he turned into capable of modify it plenty less difficult than the usage of his arms. Talent acquired. Water sprinkler. Rimuru became dumbfounded for a bit before he exclaimed loudly in frustration. What the heck is that? There may be a ability like that. I am no longer planning to be a gardener. He retried gaining his water blade again but figured that even though he can control the form, he can't manage its strength, which means it's far close to impossible if he does not think about a way to do something positive about it. He tried combining it with his information of magic this time and turned into subsequently a hit at it. He then commenced to use it as a jet. He floated about the river, till ultimately he regained his water manipulation. He stood up, respiration a piece heavily as he reached a facet of the river in which he believed is the pathway out. That turned into tougher than I concept. He heard the slither of the acquainted serpent, and shortly he faced it. I hope this works. Water blade. The serpent fell after its head become chopped off at the same time as its body changed into still convulsing. Rimuru made a face of disgust as soon as he imagined that he had to devour it if he desires to regain its energy. Despite predator, he is nevertheless going to taste it without delay through his mouth. He hesitated for a while longer than he did earlier than. But earlier than he made up his thoughts, he heard some other rustle close by. The Armorsaurus. You gotta be kidding me. Water blade isn't always gonna work towards that. Because the monster attacked him with its jaws. He tried to stay away from it as plenty as he may want to. After a bit of conflict and some combat backs, he finally met his give up, with a jaw to his human frame. Ah! Rimuru jolted awake and breathed closely in habit, with dazed senses still clearing up. He appears round him and determined himself on the tree he rested at, with the goblin village just beneath him. His past self became resting in spite of everything that naming. After hearing a faint scream, the wolves and goblins returned to snoozing after questioning it was simply their creativeness. Rimuru transformed himself into human, then again to slime, and exasperatedly but silently respiration a sigh of relief. Seal. Grasp asked a random dream. Consequently, Grasp has no motive responsible me. Right now grew to become down by using his god of wisdom. Rimuru sighed in annoyance earlier than shaking his head in entertainment to his mana's antics. Also, you must have notion how normal it might be to be reborn in a cave. First trace that it turned into a dream is which you weren't reincarnated but alternatively transmigrated. In case you were reincarnated, you will have been reborn as a toddler from a circle of relatives that does not live inside the cave. In case you have been reborn as a monster, apart from slime, you were reborn like the monsters that lived in that cave, like the slimes for your case. In case you had been another monster, it might be the identical case as having a family just like the human beings. Be it ogre, lizard men, and plenty of others, if you had been of various species. You were reborn elsewhere other than the cave. The cave isn't a spawn point for reincarnators and summons, you realize, not like different fanfics. He chuckled. At her words however idea she turned into right, and he went lower back to relaxing, however this time he stayed wakeful and tried to consider a call for the wolf inside him. This one need to nicely idea of because he became gonna hand him over to a person special. Whilst a person is speak me. While a person is questioning or speak me telepathically. While Seal is speaking from within Rimuru. When a person is whispering or simply coughing. Blank, underscore, blank. Ranga's father's pav. Where am I? Did I simply die by using the hands of a slime? Technically, slimes do not have hands. But I do have many slimy fingers once I need to. The wolf who become given a freedom to have consciousness in a darkish space mumbled to himself, and highly heard a person answer him. The sparkling G-orb received a form and stood on a darkish ground together with his 4 legs, if there has been a floor to begin with. He glanced at the direction of the voice and discovered the identical slime sitting there. The slime I'm lifeless. Not I. I've a call, and this is rimuru. Rimuru Tempest. And sure, you are. You are status inside my stomach, or as a substitute, my imaginary area. The wolf bowed his head, lamenting at his personal failure because the alpha of his page C. He become arrogant and certain he would win at the start, and now he realizes how slender become his questioning then. He regretted no longer listening to the patrols, his wolves. After residing for a long term, he realized he have not matured an awful lot. He acted for himself, not his family, and now thinks they in a likelihood failed to see him as one from how he acted. Now he regretted his actions. His percent is probably overdue to him. He determined to swallow his delight and speak to the slime with head nevertheless down, and kneeled a leg. I am sorry. I've been a fool, and now my percent might have confronted the equal destiny. This could not be proper of me to invite, while now not the victor, but please, spare my circle of relatives. Rimuru internally smiled. He should experience the seriousness and heaviness of his phrases, and idea it proper to respond. He converted himself into his human shape in the front of him. The wolf appeared up in shock and thought of him as a goddess. Rimuru slowly walked the relaxation of the way to him as he spoke. I am glad to hear your exchange of coronary heart. Don't worry, nothing befell for your percent. Appearance. A large display screen appeared at the aspect, displaying the outside international. It was morning outdoor and beyond Rimuru turned into already giving names, and that covered the wolves. They have been spared, given shelter and companions, and even names. He changed into surprised of the naming, anyone would. Naming monsters is known as dangerous and but they're there. He changed into a little involved, however his worries were proven incorrect after the whole ordeal. He ought to even see his son grow stronger than him while he became still alive, and he was happy with him. He turned to the individual accompanying him and bowed his head. Thanks, Rimuru-sama. Genuinely, thanks. Now, I will rest in peace. Rimuru widened his eyes in surprise. He predicted this but at the equal time no longer. However then he remembered he have not shared his plans to the wolf. It's nothing. Ranga is honestly and remarkable wolf and now he's a part of the elites among my subordinates. But in any case, don't you want to live or cross-returned accessible? The wolf looked at him, careworn and titled his head. Rimuru notion it cute despite the scratch in his eye. Similar to father, like son. But am I now not dead? All souls continually pass lower back to the reincarnation cycle, be cleansed natural and be dispatched to have any other life. Sure, you're proper about that. Until I'm able to you out if I want to. I'm able to deliver you back to life. You can have a new frame but nonetheless appearance the equal. Unless of root, you don't and simply proceed to the cycle. The wolf's eyes widened in wonder and awe, thinking that this man or woman in the front of him without a doubt is a goddess. His tail lightly wagged as he again spoke to him. Then if you want, allow me serve you. My lord, simply act as you're round me, but I do hope you may be right this time. Hi. The wolf raised his head and looked at Rimuru fortunately. He promised to do his exceptional for his new master. Then Rimuru idea of something. Nicely, since it truly is your choice, I will take delivery of. However I have already got Ranga as my associate, so alternatively I'll let you be my companion's associate. That desirable for you? The wolf titled his head in confusion at who this associate is. Rimuru felt a reaction from Seal which he became glad about however certain on why she hasn't stated something approximately what he said. Then he felt her thinking that it is probably someone else and not actually her. However from her memories, Rimuru would not prod. You see other those who he call as partners loads. Lover partner, her, buddies, his proper hand man, Benamaru likely won't need a wolf companion. Playmate partner, Gupta already have one and could once in a while have Ranga with him. Different closest people to him, perhaps. Seal, why do not you display yourself? Rimuru broke Ciel's mind and he ought to experience her jolt in surprise. He would not forget calling anyone else that he calls a associate the most aside from her. Ciel materialized beside him with a barely bowled over face and he happily smiled at her. He gestured to her and confronted the wolf returned. That is my Manas, my partner, Ciel. Any further, she will be your master. And your name may be, Anga. The wolf bowed his head to her direction and he or she nodded with a faint smile. Magicals accrued spherical the wolf, evolving him. Below Ciel's manage, they made positive that he receives to evolve with simply the proper amount for a Tempest big name wolf. Of direction, he will still must teach to get an amazing grip of his electricity like Ranga's, but there's a long term to be had for him every time for that. I shall be your pet, grasped Seal. Welcome to the family, Anga. Rimuru smiled at the duo and told Seal to give an explanation for their plans and approximately them coming from the future, and approximately how Anga ought to first live low for now, and Tra to Anga even as he handles the go to Dworgen, and the coming of Shizu inside the outdoor global. However, no, I might not will let you go by myself, grasp. On this journey, I will be your supervisor, secretary, bodyguard. And the whole lot you want and need. I'll face her together with you and I will be the only to give an explanation for the scenario to her. However, no, Rimuru was greatly surprised however rather sighed in defeat. He knows he can not often win in opposition to Seal. He knows she handiest thinks of the pleasant for him, however this time, there is a distinct fireplace in her beautiful ruby eyes. He changed into a little scared to understand what its miles but determined to ignore it. After a bit chat with them, Seal decided to live until it's time to satisfy with Shizu. Rimuru then got out of his space together with Anga. He additionally made certain that he too has no hint of presence. And just as the crew collectively with the past Rimuru commenced their route closer to Dworgen, he hopped directly to Anga, reworking into slime and stayed at a bit distance from the institution, invisible. Because the group rested, Rimuru determined to train Anga the way to run within the air like Ranga. Through sundown, they listen to past Rimuru and Ranga's communique while they await them to move return to the group by way of the campfire. I am this sort of Diot for not listening to my smart son those instances. He has grown up, but it appears I hadn't. Hi there now. Let's suppose that way. If Ranga hears you now, I'm sure he might be glad which you two have discovered your lesson. How about this, once we get again in our time, I can help you bond with Ranga, then you can tell him something you want to mention through then. Hi, thanks Rimuru-sama, so then, let's start schooling while they're now not around, let's. Hi, Rimuru made a barrier around them to make certain nobody from the group hears or sees them. Overnight, he turned into N. Not amazed that Anga managed to pull it off, albeit nonetheless wanting mastery, he became sure Anga might be simply great. By means of early morning, they ventured collectively with the organization again. And in the end reached Dworgen. As beyond Rimuru confronted the thugs, he himself attempted to hold down Ranga, and Seal who become inner him. Those measly little lice dare offend Rimuru-sama. They must flavor worry with my thunder. Cuckoo. Grasp, allow me cope with these lowlifes. They're no longer worth of a while. Forestall it you too, Anga, in case you move facing humans, there's little need of my concealment on you. And Seal, given that when have been you influenced via Diablo? I'm sorry, my lord. Of Path, Rimuru-sama's greatness alone could kill off those ants. I wasn't stimulated, master. However I do admit that Diablo's praises still desires greater attempt. Phew. While someone is talking, whilst someone is thinking or talking telepathically. While Seal is speak me from inside Rimuru. While a person is whispering or simply coughing. Blank. Humans, be it merchants, employees, tourists, adventurers, tourists, demi-people and many greater. Walk across the bustling country of Dworgen day and night. Of direction, it's no longer just them that venture across the place, they're additionally ones that traverse the shadows, making sure the entirety is secure and sound for his or her beloved nation. But what takes place whilst the chief, Henrietta, all at once senses a massive surge of aura even for only a sliver of a second. She was sure, the king and female Jane might sense that, and they might ask her questions about it. So she observed where she thought became the supply, but turned into amaze that no person changed into there. It went off once more from another nearby course and he or she observed it but turned into again the identical. It went off a few greater times, however the equal thing took place once more every time. It almost appears like she turned into being played with. She stopped and determined to allow the current one burst off. That one becomes simply the nearest but she didn't observe it, as if it sensed her thoughts. The aura went off furthest. No, to the opposite facet of the kingdom it simply confirmed her suspicions and she or he became irritated however on the same time, frightened of it. Who may want to have caused such huge air of mystery that might almost rival that of the king's? Is what she might think. In truth Rimuru changed into just letting out air of secrecy as big as Gazel's, no longer is an awful lot he is now. It'd be recognized as no longer Gazel's charisma due to the fact everybody obviously have special auras. Apart from that, it regarded just like the aura ought to most fa. Seative be sensed with the aid of people closest to Gazel in this kingdom. It was as though the air of mystery become concentrated on specific people. None of the civilians round seemed to word it. However normally, rimuru become just definitely a little bored. Henrietta regarded executed with it, or so he idea, so he allow off one closing time farthest from her. She could sooner or later document this to King Gazel. He wasn't even concealing himself anymore, as a minimum to those human beings he selected to play with. Others nevertheless don't virtually feel him. He had done the same with Dorf and the relaxation. And it turned into secure dimension, he scared them off and that they were now not capable of locate him. Seeing as how what he turned into doing with Henrietta have been redundant, he thought of pranking King Gazel. But he determined to delay it for now due to the fact in the end. I intended elf. Seal at once took Rimuru's attention lower back from his beyond self, varied his connection from his past self's eyes, and scolded him. In some way, he have observed a manner to feature his attention to the beyond Rimuru. It nearly felt like he turned into owning Rimuru's beyond self via his eyes. Seal, he whined to his manas. Grasp, I might just not assist you for per week for this, your past self's future. Oh come on Seal, please, Rimuru requested together with his cutest voice and doggy eyes. Or wide slime eyes for that count, however Seal figuratively grew to become her again on him with an irritated HMPH, crossed fingers, and a solid no. Rimuru sighed and gazed longingly at the butterflies of the night building from the roof's edge of the opposite building that he perched on. Seal regarded to unexpectedly glance apparently on the building, taking into account something. Rimuru felt that she became about to say something, and in relation to what it's far, it might contain a sure topic he wants to see. Very well, let's examine what your future then, master. Rimuru smiled fortunately however anything his thoughts were grew to become down by way of Seal. Besides we will handiest meet certainly one of them. Properly, it's better than nothing. However why would Seal want to recognize my future? Feeling a query from Rimuru, Seal spoke back his voiceless question. Destiny would not simply suggest your destiny lover, master, it could mean anything from the future. And since there's a whole lot of possible paths to take, we might not make sure which route will this global take us to. Ah, proper, he saw motion from the nook of his notion and determined out it become Vesta. Approximately to make and look. He would have wanted to confront him but he advised himself in no way to reduce to rebel his beyond, no matter how immune his current self and timeline as to what he does. He sighed, guessing he won't be seeing this destiny yet, and jumped down from the building, finding out to take a piece of walk, looking forward to while Seal mock. A decision it's time to satisfy the elf. Searching round at the same time as the stores haven't but closed for their final hour of beginning for the day, whilst walking past stalls and diverse window shows. He asked his partner if she would really like anything in Dworgen. It changed into commonplace of him to invite her on account that he does treat her like an actual man or woman ever considering the fact that who knows how long. A few of the people who knows him, Seal will be the first in that listing of the closest people to the King of Tempest. In reality, Rimuru had been deliberating availing and introducing her to his people. He changed into simply no longer sure how it'd turn out, or if said man or woman could be exceptional. There's nothing else I could ask for Grasp, for he already offers me the whole lot I need. Except, I am going to be your wife like last time. Seal, why do not you come back out as a substitute? Let's have a look at Greater of Dworgen, we're not constant. Lee traveling right here these days anyway. We've been too busy with paperworks that we barely have time to have a laugh. So let's have a date. Seal hesitated, deliberating looking ahead to the tea. They peek into their destiny first but she additionally wants to take the provide, and he sensed that. This is an order, and with that, Seal complied. She materialized and took manage of a parallel lifestyles in front of him. Even if she have found out more about emotions via years, she still have a resting impassive face. She does show a few feelings once in a while however primarily while round her master. Then, when we see your destiny, I would like you to surprise me with whatever you may consider. Rimuru blinked in moderate wonder however her request made Rimuru smile in pleasure, and he gave her a nod. Now, he just must think about something to reveal Seal. But first, they have already set a plan in the intervening time. They again to the butterflies of the night time, and foe. Ooned his beyond self together with Kaijin and the others already being arrested as they walked away. Seal had became her hair right into a bouncy nighttime black with what seemed like gold streaks whilst shone beneath the light. Her eyes were also grew to become as silver as the moon. This appearance of her has been what she thought of if time comes she has to pop out in an exceptional look. That being the alternative of Rimuru's golden solar-like eyes and nearly sky-like colored hair. Now they're both like of day and night. Rimuru had his appearance to while he went to the conference of Mai. They waited by using the side. Mixing with the gang with their disguises, until the elf who stood by means of the perimeters, who they have been seeking out gazed their manner. She smiled, understandin', their intentions and she or he made her way behind them. She wasn't new to searching for other people's futures whenever they requested. She became even stated to be excellent at it, as said via many people. I take it, you would really like to see your destiny. Rimuru and Seal grew to become to her, no longer surprised because they sensed her coming. Sure, in case you wouldn't mind. However, I prefer some region else. Seal looks to Rimuru, whose grin had fallen after her phrases. Ah, I see, sure, it would not be nice to convey you two enthusiasts in there. The elf giggled and led them to a by eating place that looked everyday than high-priced. The two blushed, however she ignores them and endured entering the shop. At a desk, she brought out her ball while the two sat contrary her. She asks them who might want to go first. I already recognize mine on the grounds that I will continually be with you, grasp. Anything your future is would always involve me in it for the reason that we are inseparable. The elf raised a forehead teasingly at them after hearing her say, Master, to Rimuru, wondering far off of what become exactly supposed. Rimuru simply blushed in reaction, however was saw. Tisfeed and understood what she intended to mention. Do you really need to peer your future when you have already got her, mister? Oh, you misunderstood. We had been simply curious of what our destiny is. So we idea asking you to provide us a hint, please. Seal ought to have just peeked into the destiny, however she has discovered her lesson approximately the variations of calculations and probabilities. So it changed into better to be safe and certain due to the fact irrespective of how effective they are, the future could constantly be mysterious even to beings who've the ability to predict. The elf smiled, waved her arms above the ball and did her element. The ball modified shades as though there may be a colorful smoke in her it earlier than revealing a few shifting photographs. A female, with dark hair was dealing with a way turned her face to the ball. It became Shizu, but what surprised them was it became special from how they have visible her via this ball earlier than. She looked youthful and turned into hugged behind via a lady in a crimson kimono. The picture abruptly changed and showed of two masked people collectively with a woman elf, all three he became familiar with. And the final confirmation that it turned into this group, it showed of one very acquainted character who he once became enemies with earlier than they modified for desirable. However, the surprises did not simply forestall. Because the ball went static earlier than focusing at the image of a pink head smiling through the ball as if he knows he's a person's destiny. Rimuru stared on the ball long. Before a tick mark could almost be seen on his brow. Curious, Seal checked out where he turned into searching within the ball, and found out that it changed into Guy becoming his girl form as if teasing a person he cannot see. Alright, that is sufficient if that became all. Rimuru pulled out a handkerchief out of nowhere and included the ball earlier than he could see man completes his transformation. Even Seal was dumbfounded and didn't anticipate Yuki and his group, together with Guy to seem as her grasp's destiny. They had been each additionally thinking who was that woman with Shizu-san. And why their buddy appeared more youthful. My, that took a little bit longer than common. Despite the fact that, I've had a few others additionally take longer than common, so it is not uncommon. Ho! Weaver, I'm a great deal amazed of that person, Mr. Kagarazaka, to be there. I bet you both know every other then. Why yeah, I bet we can be assembly each other in the future. He paused and slowly moved high. Gaze to his accomplice, who become additionally improving from shock, with questioning eyes as if asking if she is aware of something, right, Seal? She nodded. Proper. But that changed into certainly surprising. I ponder why them. And what will occur one day. Did you have any mind on what we may want to have in all likelihood visible? She shakes her. No. They paid for the dinner they ordered collectively with the elf and bid their goodbyes. They do not want to peer what the future holds for them, but they understand they may be greater than organized for something it could throw, even his people from Tempest may want to already take down international locations even if divided or scattered. No person could dare antagonize his kingdom anymore or go through their wrath. Now not even Yuki, Michael, or the demon lords should pose a threat to them whilst he's alive. Each of them walked around the nighttime streets of Dworgen, seeing the shops remaining up for the night. Rimuru sighed in disappointment while he realized Seal wasn't capable to walk much around when you consider that popping out. So he requested her this time for date. He stopped in notion of something. He grabbed her hand, a whole lot to her surprise, and leapt above a constructing, attempting to find the best one and stop on its roof. The lights of the kingdom weren't turned off even if the stores have already closed. To manual folks who are conscious at night. Master. Rimuru took out a blanket for them to take a seat and taken out a few ingredients they stored in the imaginary space. He known as out Anga to sit down with them. And gestured to Seal to lean on him. It may no longer be stars but I am hoping you like it, Seal, but if no longer, we can just exit in. No I like it, Master wherever we can be. Anga whined in settlement and that they both smiled with every different, patting Anga's smooth fur. They both take a seat beside Anga, making him seem like their pillow, as they watch the night of Dworgen skip by using. Equipped to tackle every other day after today. Tomorrow, whilst his beyond self and the brothers had been marching to court docket, he decided to pay a visit to his buddy and playmate. Seal and Anga had been already back in him, so he teleported in the front of a putting upside down hobgoblin, Gobda, who he stuck up at the ceiling as his punishment. Rimuru Raya. Dai had hid himself so nobody would experience him. Rimuru sighed amusedly with a shake of his head from his buddy's antics. Gobda may additionally seem lazy and demanding, but he is aware of that this goblin could take on tanks with Ronga whilst extreme. He became the handiest goblin to ever unite collectively with one of the purchasers. Now and again he wonders if he ought to provide him the best title of their U.S.A. of Lord. But modified his mind when he thought approximately it further. Benimaru and the others would truly say he turned into spoiling his playmate once more. Grasp. I would like to attempt a check on Gobda. Huh, what's it? He smirked while heard Ciel's answer. Normally, he receives involved of her exams, but after he listened to her reaction, he observed it may not do a whole lot of an impact inside the timeline. She said it is able to assist instead. He confronted his palm toward Gobda's and allow Ciel do her component. Messing with inner body components became complex and dangerous if it turned into someone else who does this, but with Ciel, he became certain she might not mess this up. And this became best a little act of manage. Gobda's belly rumbled a chunk. Inside the goblin's face showed panic earlier than he commenced to wriggle round a whole lot more difficult now. Rimuru could listen him squeak. He questioned what is happening in his head. The goblin cannot genuinely communicate considering that his mouth became also included by the threads. He became standing at the hobgoblin's aspect while he saw Gobda widened his eyes a piece early. Then he stopped squirming and tried tough to attention on something. He seemed to where Gobda become staring. It changed into his very own shadow, slightly moving. Rimuru become impressed. He didn't recognize this turned into what befell. Now he changed into positive that a future of himself additionally came to his beyond. That or something else simple happened rather. He moved his hand a bit up and Gobda's belly rumbled again. Gobda scrunched his face in addition, if that changed into even viable, frantically attempting harder to call on that shadow, till ultimately his wolf came out. Helping the goblin free, Gobda sprinted to the toilet as rapid as he could find. The strings he used on the goblin had been no longer truly that difficult to break out from since it changed into Gobda. So it turned into smooth for the wolf to tear. Of direction, he wouldn't tie his pals that difficult if didn't intend to. Anga from inside him became inspired and decided to return to his training. Including that trick to his listing of gaining knowledge of. Rimuru silently laughed and exited the constructing simply as he saw his past self from the gap, heading his route and about to present up the brothers' stuff. He decided to stay while they travel and only teleport return to the village once their past institution receives their. He strolled round for a few greater days and visited specific stores with Ciel returned outside once more. He idea of reclaiming that risk for her because of how quick of a time she spent outside considering the fact that the day prior to this. There had been one of a kind varieties of shops however most stores in Dworgen were distinct smithing locations. As he predicted from a state of dwarves, they're the pleasant at making armor, guns and jewelries. In addition they discovered diverse ingredients and he determined to take Ciel there. How is it, Ciel? It's not as much as the ingredients of Tempest ought to flavor, but nevertheless accurate enough to have their own precise flavor. I've already analyzed it on the grounds that Master first ate in Dworgen. He nodded and went back to eating, and ordered for some wine and requested if Ciel would love to strive. She stared on the glass in his hand and narrowed her eyes. Poison. In a second, Rimuru felt all his resistances upward thrust again to complete. Ciel, I informed you it is now not poison. Even then, it's nearly time for us to move, Master. They have simply arrived back inside the village. Rimuru simply sighed helplessly and paid for his or her meals, following her out of doors. They walked through the sidewalk. watching a few carriages skip by, and determined an alley to teleport out of Dworgen. Seal were given back inner him and that they teleported returned outside the village of the goblins. While someone is speaking, while someone is thinking or talking telepathically, whilst Seal is speaking from inside rimuru, whilst someone is whispering or simply coughing, blank, underscore, blank. It has been some days already for the reason that they lower back to the village and everything is just as expected. The dwarfs have almost easily adapted to their new home and commenced to paintings. The goblins had been following through what they need to do. Rigurd turned into out and approximately, giving orders efficiently. Rigur become leading the patrols. Past. Rimuru became bouncing round wood planks. All in all, everybody changed into doing their great within the village. In the meantime, the alternative Rimuru become heading closer to Bloomend. Catch. Woof. Rimuru turned into using on Enga even as he is throwing some food for the wolf to capture. They did this at the same time as going for walks closer to their vacation spot, nevertheless invisible ND possibly could be for a whole lot of time. Allows do that with Ronga soon, Enga. Rimuru thankfully exclaimed as he tossed any other meat ahead, and Enga catching it. Hi. Rimuru frowned as he notion of something. Enga stored running even as being curious as to what made Rimuru forestall tossing meat. Oh. Come to think of it, I've grown to be a dog person considering that I reincarnated, huh? I've a wolf as a pet. Beetle is the strongest inside the labyrinth apart from Veldora who's also a dragon, then there is his own family that is a bee, and then there is Kumara who is a nine-tailed fox, basically. The complete of Tempest is like a group of monsters. Do you guys think I must have a cat and an actual dog as nicely? Enga appeared to pause before walking once more as scrunch his forehead taking into account his words. He smiled wryly at the concept of a cat. In no way mind the dog, however a cat is something that now and again dogs are repulsed of. Whatever the grasp wishes. If you in the future carry one, I'll make sure to greet them very well. Rimuru's sweat dropped as he should feel some of Enga's unspoken which means, however he believes that the wolves will behave and at least could try to be pleasant if he added a cat or a circle of relatives of the cat species one day. Grasp. They are near. Enga. Prevent. Enga slid right down to a prevent. Rimuru moved his notion to a call. Lection of 4 near in which they stood within the woodland. They were already a long way from Bloomend and midway to the goblin village. Ox DJJFHG. As expected, the trio of idiots, collectively with Shizu are already going for walks for their lives. He cannot help but think again about how those three are nonetheless alive every time they poke monsters' nests. Rimuru directed Enga to run in their course. Enga was short to run, but additionally because of that they by chance hit the monsters by way of his side as he skid to a stop. Enga, stop! The mushroom monster that Beck chasing them bounced off Enga's facet and were given blown somewhere, like the group Rocket in Pikachu collection. I wish that was alleged to manifest. Rimuru's sweat dropped as he confronted T. He path where the mushroom monster went flying, before he faced the trio who were panting at the floor. He stares at Shizu, tearing up a piece. He overlooked her, his destined one. He feels a mixture of bloodless and heat feeling interior him, warm temperature from seeing her again, and bloodless from understanding he turned into no longer able to save her before. Shizu became going through the mushroom's route, apparently very harassed. She looked backward and forward to that wherein the monster flew off, and to in which she become positive it was following them. No one else changed into there apart from the 4 of them. She regarded back to the trio as she heard Kaval say something. What she noticed made her facepalm exasperatedly. What's up? What's this? Too late. Kaval had poked on so. Me other mound from the ground that Shizu changed into sure it changed into another nest, in spite of it being very a great deal unique from the mushroom's nest. And so, for yet again these days, they have been all jogging for their lives again. Kaval. The new chase made Shizu forget about the difficult situation in advance, however they did resume their adventure in the remarkable wooded area of Jura. Rimuru sighed helplessly as he accompanied after them. At the least now, he has a chance to shop his destined one, however of direction it nevertheless relies upon on her needs. Earlier than night, the traveling 4 have been able to lose the monsters that followed them in advance. Now, they were trying to relax around a campfire, eating their freshly cooked fish. It's now not my fault a person in town informed me mountains had been once mounds before they grow. Even nevertheless, you didn't must poke on any mounds in any respect. Ellen's proper. What if sooner or later I am getting pushed into one? Then I will be the first intruder they may see. Ma, I'm still the leader and I was capable of discover us a river to fish. Ha, tisk, it wasn't you, idiot. Just be grateful they lead us there to cover underwater. All and sundry, permits just forget about it, okay. After seeing Shizu's smile, the trio drooped their heads apologetically. Ellen then clung to Shizu's arm and smiled. Shizu allows sleep beside each different again. Shizu's sweat dropped, remembering the nights she had to sleep beside the lady. She constantly surprised how Ellen can now and again all of Sue. Den placed her toes close to Shizu's face while she turned into positive Ellen's head was simply at the pillow beside her earlier than they went to mattress. From time to time, Ellen would by chance kick Shizu out of bed. How is that even viable? Occasionally, she also reveals her hugging her from the facet or on pinnacle of her. She smiled wryly. Even when the female unintentionally treats like that in their sleep. She seems to nearly take a look at her like a touch sister. The four readied their sound asleep luggage, with the women to sleep first even as Caval and Guido stayed up for the primary watch. Of route they won't be by myself the whole manner. Enga changed into laid by means of the facet even as Rimuru walked toward the drowsing Shizu and crouched beside her. He silently tucked a stray hair to the back of her ears earlier than retracting his hand. Howdy Shizu Sani, don't know in which to start with what I want say to you, but for now, I will simply say thank you, for the whole thing you've accomplished. You're worth to be called a real hero. No longer only a champion, however whilst the day comes that I've to talk to you again, I'll admire your desire. I might not be egocentric this time again for you. Good night. Rimuru silently went lower back to Anga and settled there for the night to look ahead to the day, feeling concerned however hopeful. Only a few days handed in. The four had been once more visible strolling in the wooded area, chased by way of monsters, irritated of their houses getting disturbed. This time, it turned into any other batch of ants, huge red ones. Rimuru became amused. Even though the scenario appeared dangerous for them, it did assist them speed up in the direction of the goblin village. And now they had been here. And miraculously nevertheless, less complete of strength sufficient to keep running. They do have breaks on every occasion the hazard came forth and that they had been nevertheless able to find nights to sleep. And now the day has come. When the past Rimuru meets the four adventurers. Destiny Rimuru was watching from the sidelines, and Anga jumped from tree to tree. Rimuru become inspired through Shizu's capacity to combat and manipulate Ifrit's flames with it. He had by no means clearly seen Shizu in motion earlier then, so he become glad to have secretly escorted them now. He can also inform that Shizu is stepping up in her game right now, albeit reluctantly. Considering she's just always been strolling with the trio the whole time, with a few slashes right here and there. Ultimately, after Ifrit from within Shizu acted up and the remaining massive ant was approximately to trample Shizu, mild flashed before them all, incinerating the ant to dust. Anga wagged his tail, ecstatic to see every other certainly one of Rimuru episode. Master is so cool, truly. Rimuru laughed bashfully, scratching his head. Past Rimuru bounced as much as them and after speaking a piece, started guiding them to the village. Destiny Rim. Uru stayed returned for a chunk as he requested Seal. Is it almost time, Seal? Hi. It'd be this sunset, grasp. Rimuru sighed but informed Anga to start following after the group to the village, whilst they walked the rest of the way. Rimuru organized his plans and taken into consideration every feasible mistakes that might come. He has to execute his plans perfectly, so nothing must overlap or disturb his plans. Once he reached his house within the village, he got down on Anga and informed him to get some relaxation whilst he heads out. Rimuru gently started floating off the ground, flying in the direction of his subsequent destination in mind. The trio and Shizu have been currently assembling and consuming lunch with the Beyond Rimuru, and once it is sundown, Shizu must be going to that hill in which he went earlier than. He will simply come back as soon as he is performed. He stopped mid-air and found himself on pinnacle of a village, larger than the vintage goblin village. Villagers were out and about. A few have been nonetheless ingesting, a few had been education their swords, all of them have been doing their very own issue. He floated down and smiled. He gasped while a person acquainted walked past him, almost brushing him. He had darkish hair with 2 white horns and apparel, he was big and changed into carrying a field of gear fortunately. Rimuru accompanied the future Kurobe to his area and determined another acquainted man or woman there. He was nearly red universal with 2 black horns. It become the future Benimaru. Have you finished it? Searching precise and new once more. Here, Kurobe gave Benimaru a sword. Rimuru remembered the sword while he first met Benimaru. It changed into the one that he used to try and hit him before. Both ogres chatted for AC. Hunk approximately a few guns before Benimaru left. Rimuru accompanied after him into a clearing through the woodland and located different ogres there, being bullied with the aid of future Hakuro. Dignified Grey turned into glaringly senile in his eyes, however he certain offers a few damage to the ogre's schooling. He nonetheless recalls himself getting caught off guard the first time they met. He changed into nonetheless horrifying then and now. He seemed lower back to Benimaru and found him sparring with the Beyond Soe. For a few purpose, he regarded almost angry every time, even if he can inform Soe certainly wasn't. It is just clearly how he looked back then. Rimuru definitely wanted to sign up for them and play, but he stopped wondering that after they heard a person. He gazed loser to the sound and located the Beyond Shion jogging closer to Benimaru. The first time he met this pink-haired ogress, she looked so severe and mad. He nearly puzzled if all ogres appeared like that. But he remembered Shuna and a few others that afterward joined Tempest. The chief is looking for you. There may be an odd foul-looking creature on foot to the village. Benimaru's brows scrunched in confusion and desired to invite Shion, but he decided it is better to simply move and spot matters to himself. A number of the ogres observed after him, curious as properly. The chief regarded Katyu, of the intruder to even name in his son to enroll in him. They wondered what became taking place. After they reached the entrance, Rimuru discovered Shuna already with the relaxation. Now the group is whole. He notioned Shuna become indeed worth of her princess name since she seemed the cutest from what he had seen inside the ogre village. He felt a bit chill on his again that brought him out of his mind. His sweat dropped as he felt Ciel's glare from within. It changed into possibly also a terrific timing when you consider that Benimaru have spoken. We do not need your names. Leave. Gelmid was about to retort whilst he noticed the glare from Benimaru and the alternative ogres around the region. He shook in fury as he idea of this disrespect to his greatness. He idea they do not should serve underneath him and his lord. You'll remorse this. He grew to become around with an aptitude, feeling majestic to himself. He was dissatisfied to have lost a risk to have one of the most powerful races in Jura come to be his military. However, he did not care anymore, as long as the energy transfers to his essential Navian puppet. He turned into positive that they could wipe them out effortlessly at their state now. And in the future, he will be recognized among the most powerful inside the international. Turned into that clearly a great component. Shion requested with conflicted feelings. Receiving names could definitely assist them electricity up. Even though it depends on how a good deal magicals can the namer supply, it would still get them stronger. However, they had been also the most powerful race inside the woodland. Would they really want names? That person is suspicious. We cannot simply consider all people. Oni-sama is proper. We must beware of that masked Majin. His air of secrecy isn't honest at all. Rimuru sighed, looking to manage himself as the ogres dispersed. He wasn't truly that mad with Gelmid. He just saw him as a challenger, a cannon fodder, a candidate for food to his belly in the first region. He certainly desired to devour him and notice what he should have won that point. That became pointless now even though. However, he had to manipulate himself considering his thoughts were jogging with what-ifs. And it'd no longer be right if Gelmid was suddenly turned into a training dummy with the aid of a person invisible this time. He can be won quickly. He sat by using the rooftops, waiting for the opportunity while watching the extraordinary ogre villagers underneath his gaze. He could already see those with capability in unique departments of Tempest. Maximum of them are warriors as expected. A few may also cook dinner like Shuna and Hakuro, and maybe one are like Shion. There were even other ogres that appeared to remind him of Gobta and his gang. He changed into surely going to feature them under Hakuro whilst he wakes all of the souls up. Believe snoozing for who is aware of how lengthy and unexpectedly waking up to educate with Hakuro. There has been also Benimaru's father who acts almost like Rigard, however more reserved, cautious and observant. They could work properly collectively. He would be any other man or woman to take on his arch-nemesis, Paperworks. One of the things he enjoyed looking on this village are the special colorings strolling around. For such creatures, they certain are colorful and exciting at the same time as in video games. They would appearance hideous. He blinked whilst in the end they were near. He stared blankly on the direction he may want to experience them from, earlier than anyone could react. An arrow on hearth flew through the air. There was one, then three, till they had been shot in agencies. The arrows ignited the roofs that appeared to easily capture hearth and spread. Screams resounded everywhere, and all of us turned into going for walks round in panic, seeking to salvage as much earlier than jogging away. This is, if they could outrun the hungry pigs. Rimuru stayed unmoved. Even when the roof he sat on have already collapsed, he stayed seated in midair. Seeing the human beings of his subordinates fall into melancholy, he couldn't help but think of something. He would not experience something closer to them. Sincerely, because he knew what to do. Other than that cause, he turned into a monster and a demon lord. Not to forget about, he is likewise the strongest being inside the global. Possibly. It have been those reasons that made him appear heartless when you consider that then, however, he cannot assist it. He was simply no longer absolutely human. There had been a few warriors left, looking to combat off the orcs, but they have been falling tough. By hook or by crook, they expected to win towards orcs, seeing that they had been supposed to be weaker races, but these orcs were one of a kind. And that they found out it too late. Those orcs wore full frame armor and brought with them a few swords. No longer just that, however, they appear to be a little more stronger than regarded. It changed into clean that things have been not normal, but the ogres cannot method that fast sufficient to combat nicely. They have been stunned while fighting tough earlier than they were left unconscious. Not knowing that they have permit their guards off. They have been left to fight in nearly hopeless combat. A number of them did have short wondering and led other villagers to safety at the same time as they tanked hits to guard those to get away. Their sacrifices were not for naught, as some of them, despite the fact that it had been few, have fled from the transient hazard of their lives. He watched on because the simplest surviving institutions slowly circulate in the direction of the sunshades of the wooded area and amass there. The homes were far enough to no longer unfold fireplace to the forest on the encircling region. It turned into unlucky a few other trees that were close enough. Closing to pop out of a burning house that turned into about to fall apart became Benimaru. He ran as speedy he may want to in the direction of his sister and the group, and entreated them to move ahead, not to turn back for now. They at once commenced strolling away, with tears and unique emotions swirling in their eyes. Rimuru seemed again it became as soon as the village of ogres and discovered the orcs loitering around, seeking out survivors to consume. Ey spent all night time to go looking and devour the remnants of the agreement. Homes were charred, burned and destroyed. Rain all of sudden fell from the already dark skies, eliminating the fireplace in its wake. I noticed another redhead from that house earlier. It have to be just his soul trying to hang out and scare you. The orcs have discovered no survivors already, didn't you assert? Kuhuhu. Rimuru gazed at a positive root, seeing the fat man with an angry mask talking to an orc widespread earlier than they turned round and left the village, almost searching overjoyed from the manner he skipped or danced. This one, he desired to punch. He was acquainted with him, but now not within the top way. He sighed to calm down and restrain himself. The right time to take action on him could honestly come. Footman might be excellent with Kazarim and Tyr soon, in spite of it being no longer in the manner that everybody ought to see him. For Jahil alternatively, it won't be accurate for him in the end both manner. The rain stopped as soon as the solar began to upward push. Twigs breaking and the sound of virtually non-existent footsteps resounded. If it were not for his advanced senses, he would have no longer noticed him in the first area. The shadow became almost as accurate as Henrietta's, but he could see that he does not have the capability of coming into the shadows yet. Destiny Soe turned into handiest running beneath the shadows, similar to how he did through Xian when he first met him, nearly like human assassin. The blue ogre changed into crouching and walking across the fallen city cautiously. Afraid of wonder attacks if there may still be orcs wandering round. He lower back to the direction he came from and paused with the aid of the line of timber, looking again. He sighed in sorrow, accompanied by a glance of confusion in his eyes. He turned into probable questioning approximately something that him. Rimuru appeared into the skies after seeing the ogre take off once again. With a solemn however low voice, he asks, "Is it completed, Seal?" "Affirmative. I've already began it for the reason that arrows came in. The whole lot is flawlessly finished, Master." He sighed in comfort and smiled, looking to relieve the anxiety he felt. He knew his accomplice could do it perfectly, but he was apprehensive he may fail. He still underestimates himself. Even Seal would facepalm herself. "Then I wager I must hurry," returned. "It may not be too long and another trouble needs to be solved right after some other this time." "Hi. Every other problem needs to be solved." Rimuru felt like there's something else in the back of her words, however selected to disregard it. It's in all likelihood nothing fundamental if it is Seal. No, the whole lot is usually principal when it includes Seal. But I should just accept as true with her as continually. He teleported himself on the middle of the metropolis to wait. The solar has already shown up inside the sky, and any other occasion might start quickly sufficient, but it was still a touch too early, so he determined to give up ready and join the village's breakfast. Taking walks toward the tent where the group first ate the day gone by. He should already pay attention the noises interior. How generally do I have to inform you? It is my meat, Caval. It wasn't me, it was him. You are honestly preserving her meat. Ellen, I raised that meat. Supply it lower back to me. Slurp. Yar yar. Rimuru-san, inform these boys it is my meat. First Rimuru sighed but hesitated to sign up for the past Rimuru inner. He stared on the tent door, wondering how he may want to get internal without being observed. He should have forgotten approximately teleportation once more. Did you say something, Seal? Nothing. I could tell she's smirking but I will forget about that. Now, how to get internal? He almost drilled holes at the tent's flap from how a great deal he became staring at it, however in the end. He decided to simply enter and they'll simply suppose it's the wind. Proper after he decided that, and took a step to enter, the human beings from inside decided to pop out. Rimuru's eye ticked an annoyance as they exceeded through him. Who, did it abruptly get bloodless all of a sudden? It was a very good issue he set himself like a human ghost so people ought to simply get through him and no longer touch him. But they honestly might experience like he was a ghost. We just got out of doors would colder than inside. It was only at the door although. Allows prevent speaking approximately the door. I nonetheless have to reveal you all something to your ride. The organization followed the slime as it bounced closer to Rigard and some other goblins' direction. Midway there, Shizu stopped and iced up. The institution abruptly found out she wasn't following them and that they seemed lower back to look Shizu acting uncommon. Not again. Is there something wrong? Shizu-san. Good day, what's wrong? Shizu-san. Shizu fell to the ground, kneeling and it regarded like something become looking to pop out of her. First Rimuru without delay flew off at a distance. He already knew what is going to take place and must just watch for his element to work. The whole lot is occurring as it need to be. Ifrit showed himself and taken forth his minions. Beyond Rimuru exchanged words with Ranga and the trio. Rigard and Rigyur assisting anybody to evacuate. Ellen taking pictures icicle lance at Ifrit's minions, and subsequently, past Rimuru replicating it with his icicle shotgun. Rimuru could still experience Shizu from within Ifrit, and shielded her soul from the assaults that Ifrit received and made, just in case. He spread out his notion and discovered nothing out of plan. Searching back to the combat, it become already the component wherein past Rimuru found out fireplace is innocent to him. First Rimuru's sweat dropped remembering such an embarrassing state of affairs. And felt Ciel's exasperated appearance him. Boy, you can't blame me for no longer knowing the overall extent of my abilities that time yet. I failed to say something, grasp. I can really feel her mocking smirk. Beyond Rimuru have already eaten Ifrit and lifted Shizu by the point first Rimuru appeared round in unhappiness to the burned materials and a few tents that wasn't blanketed by using his Beyond's barrier in time. He may want to still experience his annoyance to Ifrit for doing that. It wasn't that huge of a fear when you consider that they have quite a few resources around the forest. However it sure did postpone them a lot. He appeared back to in which Shizu and the organization were being carried by way of Ranga and the goblins to a surviving tent. He sighed to prepare himself. This time, it's his flip to take action. Seal, I will experience your concerns regardless of how you try to cover them now. I am getting higher in studying your feelings, forestall that. I am not doing what you watched I'm doing regardless of how I seemed like earlier than. Like how we both mentioned, I am not absolutely the same as I was earlier than regaining my reminiscences. Master, don't thoughts me while you're busy with something more essential. What's the purpose of me hiding it in case you're just going to position your attention on me as opposed to something more critical in the intervening time? HMPH. Oh, I thought you are not upset. Just pass now. Hi. Oh, okay. Entering the tent, Rimuru patiently listened to their verbal exchange. He wondered what could Shizu suppose. Once she learns things will all at once twist in a new direction for her. At final, first Rimuru noticed her soul slowly leaving her body. He at once started amassing it and storing it in his space earlier than his past self began consuming her peacefully. He smiled to the past Rimuru earlier than closing his eyes and beginning them to look a touch Shizu jogging closer to a house with a girl who regarded exactly like the one from the crystal ball for his destiny. Mom. Oh, in order that became her mother. Her soul had been expecting her daughter this complete time. I'm happy she's glad. However, Does that imply we were not needed here within the first place? That could be too quick of a mission for a future. Rimuru sighed and took a step toward the two ladies and showed himself, in all his complete grown size. Ehem, hi there Shizu-san and Mrs. Izawa. Ah. I am not positive that's what I used to be intended to say. Each mother and daughter appeared into the voices course with marvel written on their faces. They both know they had been dead, so how changed into their some other character in their area. Even Shizu turned into burdened who this individual that sounded like Rimuru turned into. After an awkward silence, Mrs. Izawa in the end spoke. Who are you? Why are you right here? And why do you nearly appear like my daughter? Little Shizu widened her eyes as though simply knowing what her mom said. He smiled and replied, First, I'm Rimuru Tempest. Second, I have a project to satisfy right here. Third, I appear to be Shizu-san because of her needs to me. Rimuru. Shizu gasped in Sue. Our prize and put her attention absolutely the only who called themselves someone who she remaining saw when she become alive. Both mom and daughter stared at him for a while earlier than Shizu shaked her head. However I came from the destiny. Shizu gasped and at once began her questions. How are you capable of do this? What passed off? How are the kids? Hinata, Yuki, Leon, Fufu, Shizu-san. I would not be right here if I failed they all. Shizu's eyes watered and he smiled in alleviation. The youngsters had been stored. They may be all fine and Rimuru were given to punch Leon for her. She chuckled at her personal mind and looked again on Rimuru. Thank you. He smiled excitedly and crouched to her peak. Do you need to recognize what took place? Shizu nodded her head eagerly and Dee sat beside her mom who smiled returned. They both listened to Rimuru's tale of what happened after she died. How he met new pals, constructed a country from scratch, traveled to Ingraxia, saved the kids, fought Hinata. Punched Leon inside the face, fought many more people, turned Yuki to a brand new leaf, and lots of more of his incredible journey. After his tale, he regarded again to Shizu who became tearing her eyes out. But she had a smile on her face. Thanks Rimuru. I'm sorry for the troubles I gave you. Rimuru frantically waved his fingers in the front of him. No, I must thank you for this. There were terrible instances but it changed into all fun and really worth it. Shizu chuckled and nodded, feeling thankful. She paused and remembered something. Oh proper, you stated you got here from the destiny. Why did you return? You're not right here to simply tell me about this, aren't you? Rimuru shakes his head and smiled. He paused, making ready for what he become going to mention. I want to ask what you need to do now. As for how I'm now, I assist you to in the reincarnation cycle. Do you want to go somewhere? Sometime. As for fate, I forbid myself from interfering that some distance. However I can guide you for your subsequent lifestyles. I should ask in case you need to head back to existence but I also don't want to mess with the timeline. I am sorry about that. He bowed his head apologetically. Shizu shakes her head. I apprehend. In the end that adventure you shared to us, I don't think I need to. I'm a great deal reassured already. I do not want to motive any more troubles. No, you are no longer inflicting problems. Or you could come back to existence in my present time, I am positive. No, like I said, I am very plenty glad with the entirety now. So I bet Shizu gazes back to her mother and saw her smile at her and nodded, searching lower back to Rimuru. I wager we will proceed into the reincarnation, in case you're K with that. Muru stared at them for a bit earlier then smiling and nodding. I'm able to restoration that for you. After the entirety, I need to repay as tons as I may want to. You're unique to me Shizu-san. IWOU. LD not are becoming far in case you weren't my destined one. Shizu blushed and shyly bowed her head in embarrassment. Baka, come to think about it, you are like my mother parent on this world. At that second, Shizu felt like some things shattered earlier than it turned into even completely built. She snapped her head to Rimuru in confusion and disbelief. What is this fool speaking approximately? I inherited your will, skill and look. Even Veldora seems similar to a male version of your face, and I am the androgynous one, and you've the aura like a mother, particularly to the children. Veldora what now? Shizu flinched while she found out what he stated become true. And Veldora and that I are brothers, even earlier than you got here. So you're just like the mom of Rimuru however no longer the, before Rimuru. Before Rimuru, she blankly tilted her head as her mind began to fill with but any other set of questions. Oh proper, I forgot to inform you. Rimuru stood up placed his hands on his hips in a pose. I am additionally Veldanava. Shizu faltered and eventually snapped out of her daze. She glared at Rimuru and became returned to adult size and smiled menacingly. May want to you slow down. Rimuru bowed his head, recognizing that smile. He weakly replied, hi. First, you're Veldanava. This time she confirmed disbelief and confusion in her face. Rimuru smugly smiled and were given back to his pose. Ah, sure, I am Veldanava's reincarnation. He secure and smiled. But I am a better model of my past self now, so I'm nevertheless Rimuru. I still preserve my name as Veldana. However I favor to be known as Rimuru now. Shizu's shoulders dropped as she processed the information. She opened her mouth as if remembering something. What approximately your spouse? Does Milam recognize? Milam knows, however she's additionally still adjusting about her bestie being her father. I do cling out along with her the same way, nevertheless however she chases me away while she remembers that. And desires to suppose for some instances approximately it. Velgrind and Velzard additionally nonetheless acts the identical manner around me, but they study me with extra appreciate, and Depa. ND and grasp out with me more like they had before I was Rimuru, however they still live with their cherished ones of direction. Veldoran ever modified, but a little more clingy and annoying. As for my wife, Lucia, she's with me. Constantly. Every other bluish silver hair got here out from at the back of Rimuru, however with lovely sharp ruby pink eyes. Shizu realized that this is probably Lucia. However she seems like any other copy of Rimuru, and thought that there need to be something else among these. Always have been, from beginning to eternity. Seal smiled as she held Rimuru's left hand. He blushed from her contact but smiled. However there might be some modifications about that. Seeing Seal barely frown, Rimuru hurriedly said, It's not like we broke aside. We had been just restarting. Restarting? Shizu requested. Harassed. Rimuru nodded. I just concept that, you realize, it is a distinctive life now. So maybe, we should restart our courting. Sensing that there is more, Shizu desired to ask greater but decided that in the event that they do not want to, then they do not must pressure themselves. So, what sort of world are we going to be reincarnated to? Sensing the situation, Mrs. Izawa came to step in. Seal and Rimuru exchanged glances earlier than smiling. What might you like? Rimuru asks. Shizu smiled and held her mother's hand. Can we visit some other magical world? Keep in mind it done. Can you put us on the maximum peaceful city? Executed. Shizu paused and thought of what to mention subsequent. I do not think it is right that I preserve to hate this world. So can I maintain residing here with some other life? Rimuru smiled brightly and nodded. You don't ought to fear. I'll ensure you get to stay a existence of luxury deserving for you. After she heard his words, she shakes her head. No, that's okay. We don't must be wealthy. Rimuru nods, understanding she desires. Then, might that be all? What about your memories? Shizu concept for a bit and smiled. I wager I want them. I still need to bear in mind the glad parts of my existence and pals. Got it, Mrs. Izawa smiled and nodded in agreement together with her daughter. With a snap of his palms, each. Mom and daughter have been engulfed in mild and proceeded to their new lifestyles. After some time of silence, Seal speaks, you can have simply said we were restarting so you would be sure for your election to simply hold me alone or in case you need to have a harem. Rimuru flinched at her words and glanced apologetically in her way. How did you understand my actual motive? After all of the time we had together, considering that the beginning, do you surely assume I would not know you that a lot? But she stared back at him without displaying emotions. Rimuru sighed and held her hand. I am sorry. I simply don't know what to consider it, but I wasn't all of the same Veldanava anymore. Seal positioned a finger to his lips, stopping him from pronouncing extra. She smiled and said, permits take it slow. Rimuru smiled and closed his eyes. After feeling something from his cheek, he opened his eyes to the world outside. Beyond, Rimuru turned into now walking in his new clothes, heading toward a collection of goblins and wolves. It need to be a few days already given that Shizu's death. Did we pass time, Seal? Hi, I slowed down time in Shizu's area so we may want to skip the uneventful days within the outdoor world. Rimuru sighed helplessly and requested, and Shizu and her mother. I dispatched her mom's soul in the beyond so she should reborn Shizu to nowadays. That way, she'll meet with her students again. And I might have to reveal Leon to her too. Rimuru smiled and nodded in satisfaction. He positioned a hand below his chin in a wondering pose. Then what have to we do now? Are there any other souls we need to collect? I cannot follow the orcs the complete time to observe out for death ones, and the same issue may be said with the lizard men, right? Hi, they stayed for a while to reassure themselves that their human beings will be stored. It's miles a guarantee that they died in peace. Their souls are bound to join the reincarnation cycle, so they will be reborn once more. Then let's evaluation our adventure. After defeating the orcs, Milam comes, then comes Charybdesh. It is Charybdis, master. You human beings continually bully me. Rimuru whined as Seal deadpanned. He started out strolling inside the path wherein his past self will meet the ogres and waited for the proper hour. He sat via the boulder that his past self will soon smash. Anyways, after Charybdis, Charybdis. After that, a tick mark appeared on his brow earlier than he persevered. After that, have been the kids, then Pharmus attacks. He paused, deliberating something before he persisted with a decreased voice. They had been all brought back, and that I have no plans on bringing again dead squaddies of Pharmus and the Holy Church. I needed their souls and our bodies have been fed to summon Diablo. I did use his followers. There's no need to deliver them back. Demons are happiest while they are useful to the grasp they renowned, even Diablo changed into jealous of them that point. Oh, if it's case, then this is that. He paused, smiling awkwardly. Then there was Clayman. He turned into ruled, so I gave him the threat to go again to his friends via Kazalim's soul. Then, none died before the Empire struggle. And in that struggle, I don't assume I want to convey back those left useless. Without the soul, I cannot position them in artificial human hour bodies. Without bodies, I cannot convey them returned like Calgurio in the relaxation. I can't supply them returned their souls in view that I used them for awakening the 12 patrons, although I could bring them back in other approaches that I ought to. It is very a lot bizarre to carry back lifeless human beings from the Empire 7 or 8 years after the battle with them. Next viable deaths would be the army of Obera, Grasp. Oh yeah, that. Milam did point out that about what befell there. They have been loyal and honorable angels. One part of my subordinates for the reason that Veldanava. He paused, closing his eyes and wondering deeply. Yeah, I guess it's simply proper to convey such unswerving and perhaps honest subordinates lower back. Query is, how did they get killed? We can get there and in my opinion see it ourselves. If we will retrieve their souls or astral bodies, it's best. If the ones have been destroyed, which means they absolutely had been meant to live deader than useless. Yeah, you're right, it's still a long term to go. Likely 2 years from when we're right now, however it is all the greater a laugh time for us. We don't have to hurry and bypass in time. Let's first mess with these guys. Seal sighed helplessly but joined her grasp in searching back on the scenario in the outside world. The ogres are finally right here, and here they coincidentally met with the goblins. Because the goblins have been in their searching mode, they right away attacked whatever turned into shifting in the other aspect of the trees. The ogres readied themselves because the Cr. Imson-haired one right now threw a drowsing magic spell at the attackers. Sadly, hobgoblins collectively with one wolf were out of range. The ogres and 3 paused for a chunk, pressured of the state of affairs. Sensing threat, Gobta first moved however turned into blocked with the aid of an antique grey ogre. Prompted with the aid of the other's actions, the purple ogre swinged her morning famous person towards Rigyur. Ranga, taking into account helping the two, went after the crimson-haired ogre, understanding she turned into the root of their comrades falling asleep. So that is what came about. Fool. They already paused to try to verify the situation but Gobta went after them. The crimson ogre went hiding in the back of a tree and organized a blue flame by her fingers, however Ranga was locked with the aid of the blue and black-haired ogres. The wolf tried leaping up to move over them but the ogres have been also capable of soar up excessive. They did this for a few more instances, ooking to get past the two and the two looking to block the wolf far from their princess. Ranga used his menace at instances. Seeing that he guessed they weren't genuinely trying to kill every different. He averted the usage of black lightning. Meanwhile, Rigyur became doing his best to damn the morning superstar however he nonetheless receives hit a couple instances. Gobta changed into rolling and squirming around. Miraculously dodging maximum of the assaults however nonetheless getting hit, nevertheless. He was yelling around as if he become death with a comical face. I'm gonna die. I'm lifeless SSU. Gobta rolled via someone's feet. No longer spotting them for a moment. And right here comes the hero. What passed off? Past Rimuru crouched and began talking round, calling Rigyur and Ranga, splashing the 2 goblins a few recovery potions. Shuna and Benimaru had the same attributes used right here. Shuna is also pretty sturdy before being named. She additionally failed to overlook her spells. She used the identical blue flames for fire wall against Adalman the first time they fought. They all grew up so fast. You could say it double approximately yourself as nicely, grasp. Rimuru gently chuckled and scratched the returned of his head, embarrassed. I am a different case, Seal. The ogres tensed upon seeing a masked man or woman come into presence. They had been all thinking the identical aspect. Oni-sama, it's a masked Majin. Shuna bounded closer to the others, and stood in the back of them as they surrounded her for safety. Once you have eyed through the wolf and the masked Majin. I see, he ought to be one among them. The purple-haired ogre growled angrily as they glared at the blue-haired Majin. I ponder what Benimaru would suppose if they went again with me right here. He did say he become scared for his or her lives, however he had to positioned up a front for his comrades, the fallen and now not. He possibly could be embarrassed to see this scene all over again. He was very tons determined to avenge his humans through me that time. Rimuru paused before snapping his palms and smirking. Speak me of, I suppose our first sufferer may be him. Ha, you've been sighing a lot nowadays, Seal. Show us who you honestly are, evil Majin. Oh, Benimaru took a chunk of time to reply there. He wasn't clearly thinking a great deal before he changed into named, A everyday person in his scenario may be more cautious, and not underestimate anyone once they have fallen from the orcs they have underestimated. He is still about to analyze his lesson quickly. Rimuru smiled wryly. Allows not be harsh on them. They have simply long gone through matters lately, so they were certain to be concerned after that entire ordeal. They watched on as the fight began, even as in that. Rimuru sensed that Seal turned into bothered with something. He seemed closely and discovered the motive. Large. Rimuru flinched at his past self's reaction to the red-haired ogre. He appeared away and tried to suppose back on Lucia's own ones before. Seal wondered what her grasp changed into questioning while she observed him having the same reaction as while he first noticed Frey back of their first Walpurgis. Upon questioning that, she puzzled whose at this time. She desired to do something but determined now not to while beyond. Rimuru subsequently flexes his black flames to the ogres. She smirked whilst the time she become anticipating came. Rimuru, who became sitting by means of the boulder were given struck by his very own past's lightning. His eyes swirled in a daze. His body swinging aspect to facet from shock as he fell on his butt to the floor. Seal snickered at her grasps. Punishment. Rimuru pouted and went lower back to looking the interaction between his past self and the ogres. Shuna is making an attempt to persuade her large brother and eventually stopping the false impression. Yash, permits be a part of their first dinner together. You too, Anga, come out. Haha, Anga got here out of his shadow. Rimuru stood up and patted himself, and climbed on Anga. They accompanied the organization to enroll in them this night. As he listened in on their communication on the way again, he idea of something. I've been thinking. There is already Rigyur, and that I deliberate to bring again his older brother, Rigyur. What need to I rename him? I can, not simply change his name that effortlessly, you already know. A while within the gift. And that is how Jura Tempest Federation turned into Born. The trainer glanced at her college students and nodded in pleasure. Seeing them listening to her closely. The bell rings, signaling the cease in their lessons. The youngsters excitedly picked up their bags, and one by one left for domestic. Before the last little girl got out, she stopped and hesitated, taking into consideration something earlier than she shuffled her way to her trainer. Hinata-sensei. After catching her trainer's attention, she persisted. Will Rimuru-sama store the scholars Shizu-san left to him? The woman with short black hair bent right down to the little female's peak and smiled. I do not know. You may discover soon in our next class. The little lady smiled and changed into approximately to invite some other when she become known as from the door by means of 5 kids from a higher level, who she now calls her buddies. Shizu-chan. Hurry, permits play. Hi. The little lady smiled and bounded to them in her tiny legs. The institution bid Hinata goodbye for the day earlier than they went out, leaving one other little woman in lengthy black hair. It's truly her, is not she? She became born precisely because the day Shizu-san died. She asked with hopeful eyes. Hinata smiled. Compared to her common but uncommon smiles, this one emits a different however brighter glow on her. Even you 5 can already inform. I will sense it's her although Rimuru doesn't say it. I additionally sense like she has her recollections. The way she seems at us now and again. Yeah, but let's simply pretend we do not know. Perhaps she is trying out us or something. Looking returned inside the female's course, she frowned a piece. You Our professor instructed me you have a undertaking today, Chloe, go. Hi, I'm already an adult and this is what I do. The lady slumped in her role and grew to become around with no enthusiasm. Ended.